The meeting will come to order. Welcome to our April Board of Trustees Committee of the Whole meeting. It's great to see everyone present today. We certainly appreciate you for being here. Our first matter of business is approval of the consent calendar. We have a recommended motion from administration. Do I have a maker of the motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Leventis Wells has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mrs. Middleton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our second matter of business is appearance of visitors, and no one signed up to speak today. Our third matter of business is instruction. We have one instructional matter today, item 3.01, the Satellite Diploma Program Update. Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Many of the board members attended some school visits about a month ago, one of which was to lifelong learning. One of the programs that they touched just very briefly on there, because it falls under the alternative programs umbrella, which is where adult ed and MSAP and HSAP fall, is our satellite diploma program, which we implemented a number of years ago in response to working with students who were over age and well undercredited. So if you think about perhaps a 17-year-old with 1 or 2 units of credit not being successful, try to get them to a diploma or to a GED. As we go through the budget every year, we also look at programs to see if there's need to expand, to change, or to modify or to eliminate programs. So as we went through that process and looked at the data, we wanted to take this opportunity to share that data with you so that you might see what our current success rate is with satellite diploma and how it is moving some of our students forward that otherwise would drop out, would not receive a diploma or a GED. And many of you may recall when we presented on programs like this before, success rates for alternative programs are generally, they would seem to be very low, but a very high success rate in the alternative world is 20+%. So you may keep that in mind as we go through this, as Ms. Dean shares with you the program and the graduates that it's producing and the GED earnings that it has created. So, Ms. Dean.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm going to talk to you about our satellite diploma program. As Dr. Royster said a few weeks ago, some of you had the opportunity to go to the alternative program at our Sullivan Center, and I know Dr. Greer and her staff presented to you about what is happening in those programs, but I just wanted to do a recap of what is housed in our alternative programs. We have alternative academic pathways where we have our middle school and high school alternative programs. We refer to those as MSAP and HSAP. We also have our West Greenville School, and we also have the satellite diploma that I will go into more specifics in just a few moments. On the community side, we have group homes and residential homes where students from all over the state are placed in those homes, and we provide the academic services to those group homes for our state. And then we also have lifelong learning, which houses adult ed and other ESOL programs, and also training for business and industry in our lifelong learning programs. So specifically, our satellite diploma program is a way, as Dr. Royster talked about, students that are currently in our high schools but are well below the credits they need in order to graduate, and they are presented the option or the choice to enter in to the satellite diploma as opposed to dropping out of school in most cases. Those are conversations that our school counselors have, that our social workers have, and also Dr. Greer and her staff come to the schools to talk to them. This particular program aligns with our strategic plan, specifically in the goal 1 of student success, where we say we are going to directly support students with personalized high-quality intervention and curriculum so that we're meeting the need of each student. It also supports our Graduation Plus initiative because in our satellite diploma, students have the access still to career and technology and certification programs along with work-based learning. Some trends, as Dr. Royster was talking to you about when we were looking at, do we expand the program, do we change the program, do we eliminate the program? Here are some stats over the past 4 years of students that were served, and the number in the parentheses are students that are below 17. In some special cases, Dr. Greer works with high schools when students are below that age of 17 and they can have some special permission to attend satellite diploma. So that gives you those students in parentheses that are below 17. You have the number that graduated in 4 years. So we do have students that come to the satellite diploma program and still can graduate in their 4-year cohort because of the individualized attention. They can get on a fast track. They can take 2 courses, and once they finish 2, they move to 2 more, or they can take 4. That is up to that student, the parent, and the staff at Satellite Diploma. It tells you how many received a diploma in 5 years, and then the total number receiving the GED. I do want to point out in 2024, 2025, and you see an asterisk there, that is where the adult ed satellite diploma graduation, diplomas granted along with GED, counted on the high school report card. So as you see, in 24, 25, they served 186 students. 13 of those students received their high school diploma in that 4-year cohort. That 13 made up the 0.6 of our 90.6 graduation rate for our district. So it is making a difference. It also helped high schools where these students were enrolled. In the 5-year, we had 7. Last year, we had 23 that earned their GED. This counts in progress toward graduation on high school report cards. So these students are still helping our high schools, whereas if we didn't have this program, these students would have been dropouts, and it would have gone against our high school. In 25-26, the year that we're currently in, we already have 9 students that received their high school diploma, and we haven't even finished the year. We have 4 that have received their diploma in a 5-year period and 3 that have received their GED. Please know that we have another month. We also have all summer to up these statistics, and we feel confident that that will happen. Because of the success in this program, Dr. Greer and her staff had said, how can we catch kids earlier? We have students in our 9th grade that are over age for 9th grade. They've been in it 1, 2, 3 years. So what can we do to assist high schools? They can't drop out if they're under 16. So Dr. Greer and her staff, who she's here today, came to us and Dr. Royster and Dr. Turner to present starting a pilot program. So we are going to do this. We're going to try it next year. There is no additional staff needed, no cost to the budget. But we will pilot over-age 9th graders, and we will bring them to our satellite diploma sites, which, if you're not familiar, our satellite diploma sites are at each of our career centers. So that's Bonds, that's Golden Script, Ennery, and Donaldson. We will take 5 at each site, and we will get them in this advanced, this fast pace, this individualized instruction curriculum to see if we can get them back on track so that they can go back to their high school and be in classes with their aged peers. So the logistics, as I said, we will start with a small cohort of 20, 5 at each site. We'll utilize the existing staff, so no cost to the budget. Our students, we will be provided transportation. They will stay enrolled in their high school. So they'll still be in the power school. We'll take attendance every day. They'll attend class for 6.5 hours like all other students. They will be served breakfast and lunch. Our target population is that over age ninth graders, so current ninth graders or even rising eighth graders that are over age coming to the high schools. They will be under the compensatory attendance law. We will be taking attendance, and we will establish criteria for their enrollment. So our hope is we'll have more than 20 apply. And then we will have to look at those applications and see who would be the best fit. Of course, lots of talking to counselors, lots of talking to parents, and making sure that we're making the best decision for students. The instructional approach, because we have a competency-based waiver through the state of South Carolina, these students will be operating under that so that we don't have to have that 120-hour seat time. That's how we're able to move quicker and faster with these students. So flexible with their pacings, the structural and age students to, as I said, accelerate and move hopefully quickly with that individual attention in small classes. A group of 25 at each site is a very small environment for those students. It'll give them additional time, additional supports. We will have ML services, we will have SPED services, so that we will not be excluding any student that might want to participate in this pilot program. So that is the success of our satellite diploma this year and in years past. I want to thank Dr. Greer and her staff for what they do to meet the needs of all students, and especially those that are having difficulty sometime in our traditional settings. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Dean. That was an excellent presentation and certainly cutting-edge best practice for our district. Ms. Mosley has a question.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Dean. This was very, I enjoyed the tour, and this was a good refresher and a nice information to have. I have just a couple of questions. On the slide that shows the numbers of the participants, so what happens, obviously, there's a large number of people we've served. It dwindles to the ones that are actually completing. What happens to the ones that don't complete? Do they have an opportunity to return? How many chances do they get?
As you know, a student can stay in school until they're age 21. So yes, they can stay if they are working and working toward their goals, they can stay. Some of these students, once they age out or they make the decision at 18 or 19 to move straight over to our adult ed program, many of them transfer to the adult ed program. So that's where you don't see that. And frankly, some end up dropping out. But the majority of those students either stay or transfer into our lifelong learning program.
Okay, so some of the numbers like 2023, 100 students served, we might see those same students in the head count for the next year and even
Correct.
in the next year, depending on what their age is.
Correct.
Okay. And so this pilot program, do we have an idea across our district how many students would be eligible to apply?
I know that Dr. Greer and her staff have pulled those numbers. Dr. Greer, do you have any indication of how many students would be eligible at the current time?
Yeah, well, we have probably a couple of hundred students total, but the strategy we decided to use was to look at which schools we needed to target that had maybe the highest percentage and highest number of students. And so we've done that. So we've pulled those initial numbers to see how many students at each location fit that criteria. And then, of course, we'll have to whittle that down based on those who would actually be interested, those who would actually most benefit from that. So we do have some preliminary numbers, and we have the three high schools that we've identified. Two of them had both the higher percentage and higher number, and then the other was just higher percentage. So we're looking at that in terms of trying to identify which schools we should target first, or which ones we'd have the most impact with that small number of students.
Okay, and so I'm sorry if you said this, what is our capacity for, like, how many can we accommodate?
We're targeting 20 students.
20, okay.
5 at each site, because
Okay.
we're not wanting to increase staff and
Right.
increase budget. So based on our current staffing, that allows us to serve 25 at each site.
Okay, and I heard you say you're still coming up with a criteria for what that,
Correct.
what that would
So
be.
when
Okay.
as she said, when we identified and pulled numbers, probably district-wide in those schools, we're looking at 200, so you're looking at about 10%.
And then we'll provide transportation?
Correct.
To those sites?
Correct.
Okay.
No, actually, total numbers where we are right now would be less than that. But it ranges from, schools ranges from 3 to 15 students that would be in the target group right now, but this is just current ninth graders. So we don't have the numbers yet for the rising ninth graders.
Right,
that
okay.
repeat. And we're looking at repeat eighth graders in
Gotcha.
that group.
Okay.
Because we know that those students would be coming to high school already behind their cohort.
And do any of these students have IEPs, like, or would that be a disqualifier for them?
No.
Or would it, or,
No,
and if they had an
no.
IEP, would we be obviously serving them in this new
No,
setting?
we would be serving students that are working for a high school diploma. And we do have special ed services, so that does not eliminate a student. And we also have ML services. We don't want to eliminate students because of the service model.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell?
Thank you for this presentation. You've answered most of my questions, but I just have a couple more. How many hours a day do the students have to, or required to attend the satellite diploma program? Is there an attendance requirement?
They have to come at least, they can work offline because much of their work is digital, so they can work at home, but we do ask them to come at least, if possible, half a day each day.
Okay.
Some of them come all day.
Oh, okay. I know that your teachers, you used to have them roving between the programs. Is that still the case
That is still the case.
for the core? Is that just for the core curriculum?
Correct.
Core subjects?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. Mr. Cochran?
Thank you. On that same slide that's currently up there, I was wondering, looking at the 2024-25, we had 186 total students served, and for this school year, we have dropped by more than 50% down to 82. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what was going on there.
As I said, this is a choice that a student and parent makes. So that would depend on conversations that are being had at the high school and the counselor, along, as I said, Dr. Greer's staff does come and talk to parents and students. So it's not forced upon them, but it is a choice. So this year, at this particular time, realizing the year's not over, so that number could go up a little bit. And it's also available in the summer. And knowing that 24-25, these are numbers that capture not just it's August to August numbers, not just August to May. So that's less people at this point in time made that choice. It's not forced upon them.
My other question, going back to the 23-24 school year and the prior year as well, we had, as far as the GED, the people earning those, we had 43 in 2022-23, and the next year we had 42, and then for 24-25, even though we had more students, more total students, we had less earning the GED. Again, I was just wondering if you could speak to that for a moment.
Here again, counseling is we meet with individual students, individual parents about what is the best option. They have to, they take a pre-test if you take a GED, determining that's based on their reading level. It could be that they weren't quite ready with their reading level, and that's something in the satellite diploma that they work with. They work with their reading skills. And here again, all of this is a choice. And based on that population, those are the students that who are qualified to go to a GED. You have to have a certain reading level, and that is a choice those families made. I don't have an exact reason why it's more, other than in that particular year, more students and more parents wanted them to move. In their mind, thought that that was a quicker option.
What year did the test change? Dr. Greer, what year did GED change?
The latest version was in about 2005, something like that. But the other impact here, though, has to do with if you look at the data for lifelong learning, actually we have more students who are enrolling there at a younger age, who are directly enrolling in lifelong learning. So some of those people who will be pursuing a GED, and we're doing more in adult education for in terms of communicating with schools and going out and meeting with parents and students at the schools. So students are actually more informed now in terms of the options that are available to them. And so not all students are going first to satellite diploma and then deciding that they want to pursue a GED. A lot of students are directly enrolling in adult education, lifelong learning center to get their GED. And so that's reflected in these numbers as well. And if you look at the data there, the number of students they are serving that are under the age of 21 has increased steadily over the last few years. In fact, the highest it's ever been in history right now. So they have a larger population there. So that's kind of why you're seeing the difference in terms of the GED numbers going down for satellite diploma students. But they work very closely together, those two programs, which it just makes sense for them to do so. They work very closely, and so they see some of the same students. And earlier when we were talking about students coming and going, they do continue to cycle in and out as life changes for them. And so we don't consider ourselves ever losing them, because they, even when they age out, they can attend lifelong learning.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Ms. LaVentus Wells?
Mr. Cochran asked my questions, but Dr. Green, I mean, it's like, are you reading my brain? Anyway, or my mind. Dr. Greer, I'd just like to say that I would go to the bank on you. I just have the utmost faith in you and all that you care about in our students as well, both of you. The numbers concern me a little bit, but then when you explain about lifelong learning, and we all went on that tour and it was fantastic, it's very impressive. I just want to, and we don't give up on meeting the needs of all of our children, our students, and I think that's of importance. How can we build? I'm looking at the even years. It seems like they have higher numbers, and the odd are kind of interesting. And I don't know if that's just a trend or what, but how do you feel about 2026? You think it's going to progress, and you think people are going to say, this is really a great program. I need to enroll in this, and if I don't make it this, I can go to lifelong learning. I can do this and I can do that. You have so many different options. So can you enlighten me on that?
I think one thing that's affecting the total number of students this year has to do with the ML population. That is lower this year, and it's lower across the district as well. But we haven't had as much of an influx of newcomers to the district this year. And some of the students that were in satellite diploma as ML students, they have mastered enough English, they have jobs, and some of them have moved on to employment. But in terms of, as we move forward, that's one of the reasons we're looking at doing what we're doing. It's, basically what we're doing at serving students at age 17 is more dropout recovery than it is dropout prevention. And so we want to move a little further on the prevention side by targeting these younger group of students, because we know that that's really where it starts. And so getting them at the point where they're still under compulsory attendance, still accustomed to attending school every day, all day, because that's really what we encourage. But when you're reaching back and trying to work with students who have some life challenges such as parenting, work, living on their own, it's a lot harder to keep them engaged consistently. So you'll see those fluctuations. And we're accustomed to that in adult education too, because of, again, life changes. But reaching back and identifying these students earlier on and giving them the option to be able to come to a program by choice and participate in something where they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, or see the opportunity to actually make up ground and catch up with a cohort group, then we feel like that's going to be highly motivating to them, and it gives us a better opportunity to work with those students while they still are in the phase where they have to be in school. And again, rather than working with people who are essentially adults and living as adults. So I think that's our path forward, because we do have a good handle on serving students after that age who are in that same age cohort. So I think what you're seeing now is that we have the satellite diploma program that has a group of students who can also be served in lifelong learning. And so there's a lot of back and forth there in terms of figuring out the best plan. The huge value of satellite diploma, though, is there are a lot of people still in our county who can't afford transportation, who can't access these programs unless we provide that, and satellite diploma does provide that. So it really is the only option now for students who need this alternative setting, but don't have the means for transportation.
Thank you.
Ms. LaVentus Wells, any other questions? I did have a comment and a question. I just wanted to say this pilot is absolutely brilliant. And Dr. Royster, our district is on fire when it comes to student success. This is certainly student success driven. I love it. And I'm just so excited. I had a question. Did we create this pilot, or are there similar pilots in the state? I was just curious if we're the first.
Well, I can't speak for the state, but I will say that since I think when Dr. McDavid was in this position, as well as when I moved into the position, and Kathy and I sat down, she brought this immediately to me of something she wanted to try out, because we see the need. We see overage ninth graders, they're behind and just can't see a way out. And because of our competency-based waiver and the processes and the supports, and they know how to do this work in satellite diploma, and this was just the right time for it to start.
Thank you so much, and I agree. That's been an ongoing issue across the state, and I'm sure nationally with ninth graders who fall into that category. So I'm really proud that Greenville County is taking on that issue and trying to make improvements. And again, that shows our success-driven approach. Thank you so much. And thank you to both of you for presenting today. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to our fourth matter of business, and that's administration. Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell will be chairing this section. And Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell, I'm going to give you the floor at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. The first item under administration is 4.01, the 2024 to 2029 District and School Strategic Education Plans 2026 update. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. Dr. McCrary has approached the podium to give you a summary and to respond to any questions you might have. But annually, we update our strategic plan. It's due to the state at the end of this month. We almost always have some minor revisions to it. This year we have a few revisions, and to follow up on Dr. Stiles' comments, we've been very fortunate. We've experienced some great academic success. So there, you will see within there, I believe they're all highlighted in yellow, like a highlighter. I think there's like a couple of yellowish colors in there, but very visible highlighting. You'll see strike-throughs and a highlighted increasing of goal. In some cases, it is increasing the end goal in many cases. And in some, it is not only increasing the end goal and making it more aggressive to get to that goal, we seek to reach our goal with more aggressive steps in some other areas. But as you know, we were very fortunate. We had posted record academic achievement for this past year and the results that we received this fall. And so Dr. McCreary has revisions to the plan based on that. As a reminder, the schools then subsequently update their plans to fall in line with the revised goals that you may approve today or at the board meeting later this month. Dr. McCreary?
Thank you, sir. Good morning. You just heard a great presentation, a great example of the success in Greenville County Schools and the decisions that are made every day. Across this district, whether it's academics, operations, HR, facilities, decisions are being made each day. Those decisions are grounded, and the bedrock of those are based on your decisions. Yesterday, we had a presentation about the budget. The budget's a document that you approve, and then it becomes living. Those become the priorities for the district. In addition, the people in here from the district office, they're competent, have the knowledge, skills, ability, and experience to do the job. You approve HR personnel. Along with that, both the vision, the mission, which are on the wall over there, along with the goals for strategic planning, you approve. This isn't a new process. We've been doing it for some years, but the update I want to bring to you today, I want to also work you through the process we go through, whereby both the district strategic plan is updated and the school plans are updated. So there's many purposes for the reason and the timing we do what we do. One is it's driven by legislation. Every school district in the state must present a strategic plan that's good for 5 years. In addition, Cognia, which is the accreditation body, it requires a strategic plan. It's based on the individual states or authorizing agencies' processes. For us, it's State Department of Education, which guides our processes. So we have legislation, but in addition, like I said before, the bedrock of the decisions that are made each day is based on the strategic plan, which you provide along with the budget, which guides direction and decisions for the district. The plan also isn't a document that just sits on the shelf. It's very intentional. I want to remind you through this slide that the process to get to where we are today with the document that we have today was very intentional. We had a lot of feedback from communities as we reached out to schools, as documents were being developed, going back to the community for feedback, and also incorporating surveys. So a lot of different ways in which we collected feedback in order to create this document. And then we had the release of the strategic plan documents in 2024, and they were implemented in July of 2024. Now, every year, as Dr. Oyster said, every year in April, we have to update and then submit those updates to the State Department. The process we go about is we start with needs assessment each year. We update our needs. That means we update our data and any of our strategies. Typically, we go through board workshops, communications, and Dr. Roysters also present to you various reports on data, on progress, on where we are with student achievement and other factors. So that's how you get informed throughout the school year, not just at one time. When we're doing this presentation. So our strategic plans, Dr. Oyster said, it aligns perfectly, and then the arrows are all aligned with the schools. So the district goals become the school goals. It is customized at the school based on their population, based on their needs assessment. Their strategies can be similar. Their objectives are the same, but their strategies are very different or may be very different on how they reach their goal to attain our goal. So all of that's aligned. And then each March, we receive their updated strategic plans. We present those to you. And then, as Dr. Oyster said, we send those to the state by April 30th of each year. The state then goes through a review through the criteria which they have, and if there's any revisions, they send those to us. And typically, it's just simple compliance revisions, not substantive strategy revisions. We may make those changes if there are any, and then sometimes we don't make the changes because there's specific reasons why we have what we have in the strategic plan. So we defend those, and oftentimes we don't have to make any changes. It goes up to the state, and then it becomes effective July 1st. Now, in some cases, you may look at the document and say, well, this is a large document, and it is, but it's the State Department's template which we must use. And so that template includes what you see and how it's displayed. We have all districts and all schools in the state must have at least 3 goals. Those goals surround student achievement, teacher, administrator quality, and school climate. Districts and schools can have more than 3 goals, but those 3 are required. Well, every school and district in the state also has performance goals, known as SMART goals, and 5-year goals and annual goals, just as you'll see in our plan. And they must have strategies as well, which include the timeline, the person responsible, costs for funding, and indicators of implementation, which must be updated annually. As you'll see, as you review our district strategic plan, we've made a lot of progress. And as Ms. Stiles said, we've really set it on fire this year. We've made great accomplishments and achievements. Some of those are, and I want to go over a few of those. The percentage of students who passed Algebra 1 end of course exam, it increased from 69% in 23 to 81% in 25. Significant increase. Percentage of students who passed English 2 increased from 86% to 89%. That's also significant because there's a glass ceiling. Once you get so high, it's very difficult then to keep having the type of percentage increases. Graduates who earned G+ increased from 75% to 86% in 2025. Number of pupils in poverty enrolled in dual credit courses increased from 531 in 23 to 808 in 2025. We reduced turnover by 0.5 percentage points. Our goal is to reduce teacher turnover by 0.5 percentage points annually through 2029. From 23 to 25, our percentage decreased from 10.42% to 10%. We've continued to have 100% of classroom teacher positions filled on the first day of school. We've reduced the percentage of students who are chronically absent from 24% to 17%. And we've reduced turnover in classified hourly work groups by 0.5% annually, which is our goal. We've actually reduced those and decreased the classified work group from 13.38 to 10.96%, and the hourly work group from 25% to 19%. All great accomplishments, very significant. I've also included a link there on this slide where you can find the district strategic plan along with all schools' strategic plans. And now I'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
This is not coming from the presentation exactly, but from the much longer document that goes with the information. First of all, I would like to really commend everyone here at the district, all the teachers and administrators and everyone else who are responsible, and the students, of course, for a lot of these really nice improvements that have been made. My first question is, in goal area 2 and performance goal 2. And if I can make it back up to that real quick. I think it's about page 97 of that major document there. But I notice that even though we exceeded, I think it's the same case also for goal area 2 and performance goal 3, both 2 and 3. There were great strides this year, so much so that we passed up our targets for the next few years. Maybe we didn't quite get the 5-year goal, but very close to attaining that. I noticed with some of the student goals earlier, when we had made those very impressive gains, that we went back and redid the targets coming up, which of course makes sense because, again, we had very quickly outstripped some of those future targets. But I notice in these two cases, and like the one with performance goal 3 was to reduce the turnover in classified and hourly work groups that you were mentioning a minute ago. But we didn't go back and reset those targets. And I was just wondering if someone could speak to that a little bit.
I can. I think that's an oversight on my part. So what we'll do is go back, we'll look at those 2 particular performance goals, and we'll make the necessary changes. And then we'll update you all.
One of the others, I think this is area 3 and performance goal 1. I noticed this is one area that we did not make our target this past year. And I think that is the goal that was dealing with not having students get multiple referrals during the year. So for the students that received 1 referral, trying to bring down the percentage of those that get a second referral. And so I was wondering if someone could speak to where we are on that a little bit. I know, as I had brought up long ago when we were making this plan, to me that goal was probably the most problematic of those that we put in to the plan, because there's 2 ways you can achieve that goal. One way is, of course, which is what we were hoping for, of course, was to actually improve student behavior. The other way would be to, once that goal gets out there, the pressure gets on the administrators at the school level, and they're feeling the pressure to try and meet that goal. They transfer that to the teachers, and the teachers just are under pressure to write less referrals. So, but I was just wondering if someone could speak to that and to basically where we think we are with that moving forward. And I noticed there was also 1 or 2, there was an activity or 2 that we had said that we were going to try and do with that hasn't yet got started. And I was just wondering when that might happen.
One of the things that we talked about yesterday is our upcoming request for professional development funding. And that is because as we have gone through this year, we have re-identified the importance of our MTSS processes, our multi-tiers of student support. And the professional development that we will be offering our teachers, our administrators, our district personnel around MTSS specifically goes to supporting student behaviors and preparing teachers to de-escalate student behaviors, and that is across all tiers, Mr. Cochran. So that's general education through student interventions and then through students with disabilities. So our focus on MTSS is a huge driver for the tools that we need to impact that goal area. As we continue with our schools to build their MTSS models and look at their behavior support plans as a school, we're focusing on improving school cultures. What is the school environment? How does it offer consistent and coherent strategies for supporting students in classrooms, in hallways, in all settings. What are the strategies that are put in place? How do students have a sense of belonging in those buildings? And ultimately, how are we creating environments that students can be successful to improve those behaviors? But then also, how do we target students with recurring behaviors to offer wraparound services to de-escalate or to improve their skill set to be able to navigate situations without causing disciplinary issues? So I think it's a multi-layered answer, but really all of that is housed in our work around MTSS and the professional development that we are starting with that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. McCurry. And
Okay, it's
Michelle, I'll
me.
turn it back over to you. Thank you.
I'm doing administration.
Thanks.
Carolyn thought she was still on. Okay. Okay, Ms. Middleton.
I'm glad that Mr. Cochran asked that question about behavior and discipline, because that always seems to be an issue. If discipline is off, then learning cannot even move forward. So that's a good point y'all made. The one thing I noticed is looking at the areas of growth, and I saw that it really went up in Algebra 1, which I thought was very interesting. In 2 years, it went up, almost 12 percentage points. And Algebra 1 is, standard, always the same thing you teach, right? So what do you attribute that increase to? Like, what specifically do you think was done to make that happen? As far as, like, to get that kind of an increase in something like a standard math or a standard science? I mean, you have to teach what you got to teach. Do you think it was the teachers, or?
I don't want to misspeak, so I'll let Dr. Stevens answer.
So our increases in Algebra 1 are a result of some really strategic focus on the curriculum maps and the training that we were doing with teachers, the resources and supports. We had a lot of work groups with our teachers to be able to develop resources that were supporting the work that we're doing. I think the work that we're doing with our PLCs at the school level for collaborative planning have gotten stronger. I also just want to remind the board that, this year we've gone through a new math standards adoption. So we've got new resources for those new math standards, and we have really done a lot of work with aligning the standards vertically. The things that students are doing in elementary and middle school and how that will impact our high school courses that have end-of-course exams. So we've done a lot of work around the standards themselves and aligning those with the resources that we're using.
So the standards have changed then?
We have new math standards this year, yes, ma'am.
That's from the state level?
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like the collaboration was very helpful? Work groups?
We have really tapped into master teachers to help us identify what we refer to as the power standards, or the standards that are critically important for students to master before they move on to the next grade to be successful. And so, especially in math, it has allowed us to build a framework from elementary all the way through graduation with the standards that a student needs to master at each grade level to be successful, building up to courses that have EOCs. So we can now say with confidence that if a student masters the following standards through elementary and middle school, that it puts them in a great position to be successful in Algebra 1.
That is very interesting, and thank you. That's terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton. Dr. Stiles.
These areas of growth are just tremendous. I'm so pleased. And Dr. Royce, I'm going to address this question to you. I was particularly glad to see the reduction in the number of open positions for classified employees. And do you feel that our investment in the salaries of these employees made a difference in that rate?
Yeah, I think that's, I think your investment in increased salary to be more competitive with the marketplace has helped with that. I think the efforts within our HR to publicize and hold job fairs and recruitment events, and the efforts that have occurred within each of those departments, whether that be facilities or transportation and food and nutrition services, all of those things combined, I believe, have assisted in increasing the staying power of people in those jobs and creating a better pool, larger pool of candidates for those jobs.
Thank you. And also looking at the teacher turnover rate, which has also been reduced. I know we have continually added steps for our most experienced teachers. Has that been a factor
Yeah, I think,
in that statistic?
you know, the number one factor in that has to do, as you will know from your experience, the retaining teachers particularly is very dependent on the leadership of the principal in the schools. And our principals have done an excellent job of becoming focused on the climate and the culture to encourage people to come there and to stay there. Then that is balanced out and is greatly assisted, particularly in bringing people in the first time, with having competitive salaries. It helps to keep people, but it's really helpful in bringing them in the first time when we're out there in the marketplace with everybody else looking for teachers this time of the year and through the end of the summer. And being able to offer a competitive pay. We offer competitive pay. We have good facilities. We have a lot of staff development support. When you talk to teachers, particularly this comes out when you talk to teachers who work here who have worked other places, and they talk about the level of support that they have through staff development opportunities, coaching, those sorts of things. They have the things in their room that they need to have, come into a nice facility every day. But the key there ends up being culture and climate in that building. But all of those factors work together to increase our retention and help us to recruit people.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Dr. Presley?
Thank you all for this presentation. Thank you, Dr. McCreary. Quick question about the professional development. I know we'll reconnect with this because that's kind of been a theme. There's been a request for some funding for PD and an identified need for continuing to support. My question is about our teachers at those different levels in that MTSS model, specifically the tier that represents the most, right? Our regular classroom teachers and within the regular classroom. And I'll continue to ask this as we move forward, but how are we supporting any of the recipients of this professional development or these professional development opportunities that will come in? By that, I mean the finite amount of time that our teachers and our administrators have in their workday, and then obviously outside of the parameters of their workday, that they're willing to and that they should be contributing to this, okay? Because we know in research-based professional development models, there is acquisition of new learning, there is a plan for application of that new learning, an opportunity to apply the new learning in their classrooms, and to return to reflect on the effectiveness of that, basically boiling down to positive impact on students. Is that in place for these individuals who will be on the receiving end of this professional development? Because where it falls in a ditch historically, and will continue to, is if our teachers and our administrators and all the people who are on the receiving end of this do not see the validity and the reason for what we're providing for them. So I am super, super excited about these opportunities that are coming up, but I'm also very vigilant in asking the questions, are we sure that the people who are receiving it do not perceive it as one more thing? My other question would be, and not to oversimplify y'all, but the hours and hours and hours of professional development, quote unquote, the videos that our teachers watch at the beginning of the year. Is there a way to minimize some of that? Is there a way to change that up? I know some are by requirements, but I think that would potentially go a long way with that. And I'll reserve my other questions for when we move forward with the discussion. But for whomever would want to field that, that would be great.
Dr. Presley, I thank you for those questions because I think you have identified really the focus of a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last 6 to 9 months preparing for this implementation. It is critically important to us that we do not continue to put things on teachers' plates without helping to take the things off that are not getting the return for student learning, and to identify the things that are taking their time that are not moving the needle for our district. And the only way that we can get that information is to collaborate with our teachers and listen to our teachers. So one of the things that we are most excited about is the introduction to our district guiding coalition, which for a district our size is a tremendous feat in itself. And that work is led by Austin Green in the academics department. And so she has brought together teachers, administrators, coaches, classroom assistants across all levels, and they are working collaboratively with our district MTSS team. So that the framework that we have for professional learning involves MTSS and academic supports, behavioral supports, emotional supports, the wraparound services, but we have teachers at the table to help us guide that professional learning. Our goal in the last 3 months with instructional leadership, academics, and school leadership has been to really identify what are the top 3 to 5 professional learnings that every role really needs to have. And let's prioritize those. Let's make those exceptional learning opportunities, but then let's build the learning cycles around those things. Because again, in a district our size, the academics department cannot be the sole answer. We have to have capacity at the building level. We have to have coaches and instructional coaches and literacy specialists who can lead and guide the work, who can support the teachers, because they will all be at a different continuum, just like many of us are in different places. So we are excited to be able to release what we are kind of our roadmap for that learning by July 1. We are also leveraging our summer summit, or historically our summer learning opportunities for teachers, again, to be very clearly aligned with the priorities instead of maybe some extraneous learning. We're really trying to help teachers target the learning so that it gets them the return that they're seeking with the limited time to ensure they have work-life balance.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stevens. We all know that we need to continue to strive to avoid one-stop shopping approaches to PD because that's a contradiction in terms. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Presley. Is there any other discussion? Ms. LaVentus Wells.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Connell. I'll make this very brief. For Dr. McQuarrie, my question is the increase of number of pupils in poverty that are enrolled in dual credit courses increased by 277 students. So what do you contribute that to? And what type of dual credit courses are our students taking?
I'm going to refer to Mr. Williams because he oversees a lot of that. But I do want to say it's been a duality is in our strong partnerships, especially with Greenville Tech. We've been at the table with them for some time. We've got the structures, the frameworks, and the partnerships direction in place to make sure that not only do we have a good inflow of students into those programs, but we're identifying both those who are interested and those who would excel in those types of programs, and we're taking that information to the schools. So, families and students don't have to try to find this information somewhere, but it's coming to them.
Actually defer to Tara since she's over.
Okay. That's recently changed.
There you
so.
go. I like it.
So the question is, what dual enrollment classes are students taking? That was the question. Most of them are taking what I would call your core classes, English 101, English 102, in our math, science, and social studies. But we also, because of our partnership with an Accelerated U, there's a big cohort that are taking it in our career and technology courses. But it's just the full gamut. Some of it is art history, some of it's music appreciation. One thing that we have started with Greenville Tech, and we have a great partnership with Greenville Tech, is they're actually coming onto our campuses and having parent meetings and student meetings, and also assisting our high school counselors in enrolling students and getting all the paperwork. So because of the ease of that, I think that has helped to increase our enrollment as well.
And is this called the Jump Start program that Greenville Tech started years ago when I was there? Is that correct?
It's
College and high school?
Yes,
So
it
let
is.
me ask you a question. So these classes are free as well?
These
correct?
classes currently
Greenville
are
Tech.
free, not only for the
college
tuition,
credit.
but also the instructional materials that.
I like it. Okay, so that has been in place for years and
Right.
years, back in early 2013, sort of. So, great. I'm glad that these students are feeling success and they're able to get ahead of the ball game. I will say, Dr. Stevens, I think it's very important that that you are addressing the needs of these trainings, and the ones that aren't needed, we just need to put by the wayside. So that was a great question. And as far as coaches and instructional coaches, I think it's very, it's needed, but we need productive ones. And we need those that are really in tune to doing what they're supposed to be doing in order for the teachers to be successful. So I'm glad that you're on top of that, and I look for great success. And with that being said, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Kawa.
Thank you, Ms. Levitas Wells. Is there any other discussion? Any other questions? Do I have a maker of the motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the updated 2025 district and school strategic education plans as presented.
Second.
It's been made by Ms. Middleton, the motion, and seconded by Ms. Levitas Wells. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposers, nay. The motion is passed. Okay, the next on administration is 4.02, transfer of fund balance. Dr. Royster, do you need to speak to that?
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. We have two items on the agenda today related to transfer of fund balance. One item, which is included under the administration section that we're about to address, has basically to do with the non-capital aspects of the request to transfer of fund balance funds. The capital ones will appear under buildings and grounds. As you see through it, if you saw as you reviewed your materials, this particular request for a total of a little over 18 million of general fund balance will be utilized in the amount of about $2.1 million for professional development. Much of that is aimed towards improvement in special education services, but there are also items included in there that benefit across the entire teaching and learning landscape. You also will see an opportunity that we have with Greenville Technical College to take over their welding lab facility at the Brazier campus. You may recall that Greenville Tech is building a new state-of-the-art welding facility on that campus. We have the opportunity to secure a minimum of 56 additional welding spaces on site there. So part of our request here is to set aside the funding to be able to do that for a 5-year period of time. It includes ensuring that the facility is secured the same way we secure our own facilities, and the rental, which basically to us will be taking care of a portion of the utility payments for that building related to the amount of square footage we're occupying, and contract security personnel to man the facility in addition to the teachers that will ultimately be in that location. It will allow us over time to greatly expand our services to those students. Other items that you see in here is an additional request of $10 million to implement the ERP system. As you know, we're undertaking a replacement of our ERP system. That process has been underway now for 3 years, Robin. The system we're replacing is a system from 2010. The process to replace it has been about a 3-year process. The additional funds we seek are to do several things. One is to be able to add to it, and you'll see them described there, and Ms. Stack can answer any questions about it, components to add to that ERP system to facilitate work that we do throughout the system, and an amount in there so that we can operate dual systems for the period of time we need to do so to ensure that we make a clear, clean, effective switch without losing any data or any process. And like the short version of that is to make sure we don't mess up anybody's pay. That's the most important thing in all of that. There are other important aspects to it, but we want to make sure that that does not happen. We can't forecast some of those. When we asked to set aside this amount of money several years ago, some of that we could not forecast until the time we had selected the system and begin implementation to see what the system itself does and what add-on components might be used to expand the system to facilitate our work. You'll also find in there, it's titled GCS Information Hub. It is our effort to replace Backpack with a more user-friendly system. People have likened to us in describing what they would like to have, users, parents, guardians, something similar to when you go on healthcare, you use MyChart. Well, there's not an education version of MyChart, but we're trying to reach is something that will provide all that information and provide it in one place. So we put an estimated budget there because we have to have a budget before we can actually go out and pursue getting bids or RF response to proposals to replace Backpack. And Backpack was an in-house system. And one of our great challenges with in-house systems has to do with they're generally written by one developer. And if that developer leaves, then we have a problem evermore in making changes or adaptations in that system to meet current needs. So if we can do so, we are better off buying off the shelf prepackaged that another entity will support in keeping it up, maintaining it, and addressing any issues that come along with it, and adapting it if it can be when there are changes that occur in other systems that it's reporting out of. So Ms. Stack is here to answer any question about the ERP. Dr. Stevens can answer any question related to the tiers 1 to 3 professional development. Mr. Williams can answer any specific questions you might have about the opportunity to use the facility at Greenville Technical College. And I believe that covers, in general, in sum, the requests related to fund balance expenditure.
Thank you, Dr. Rosser. Ms. Mosley?
Thank you so much, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. Okay, I have a few questions. The $2.1 million in PD that Dr. Royster said was heavily, I guess, focused on special ed services. Will that also include gen ed teachers with I don't like silos, so I want gen ed teachers trained on some of the same stuff too. So
Yeah.
just clarifying.
So yesterday during our budget workshop, I did not do a very good job of discussing the different roles when we were talking about our counseling departments, our school counselors, our mental health counselors, our behavior specialists, and the different roles that they play. In that, all of those are individual groups, but it's so important that we make sure that our professional development includes all three to support students. This is the exact same theory, that we are making sure that we have general education teachers, special education teachers, administrators, all receiving similar training, not necessarily exact. It depends, of course, on the application of that, but that they are all consistent and coherent, so that, as we know, a majority of our special education students are served in general education settings, that the general education teachers have the same skill set to be able to support students across any setting. So we will be focusing on UDL strategies. We will be focusing on collaborative planning. We will be looking at not just the compliance pieces, but really the instructional strategies that are good for all students.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, because I get those questions, and I'll just make sure. I'm super, super happy to see this commitment towards professional development, although I do share the same concerns Dr. Presley brought up, so I'm glad this has been a good conversation today. Switching gears to the welding space. 5-year, we're renting this?
It's basically, it would be a lease for
A lease,
5
okay.
years. But the total amount for the lease over the 5 years is $88,000.
Okay, so what happens at the end of 5 years when we've served these extra 56 students?
As we go through probably the 3 to 4 year point, at that point we'll have a better idea. Do we need to continue to do that? Do we need to build? We will also be building additional space at that time.
Okay.
Inside that 5 year window, we should be in Donaldson, if I remember correctly. We're building a larger welding lab at Donaldson than exists at Donaldson now. We need to look at our other facilities. However, if it works well, there may be no reason not to continue to use it. Though in a 5 year window, we may need to replace the welding equipment. But right now, we're getting all the welding equipment, which is reasonably up-to-date equipment. They're getting all new in their new welding facility. So we got the opportunity to walk in there for basically $88,000 plus the upfit, a little over $100,000. So for about $200,000, we walk into a welding lab that's already built, already equipped, and should do us well for at least 5 years, and maybe beyond that if we upgrade the equipment.
Okay, so Mr. Williams, how many students are on our wait list for welding? Because I know my own son went through the welding program. It's excellent. I'm super supportive of it, but I know it's a high demand program.
Currently, in this most recent cycle, again, we have 100 total welding booths in our facilities. We had 331 first choice applicants for this year. We had an additional 210 second choice applicants. Many of those will get their first choice career center program, but there'll be some number, 80 to 100 likely, that won't get either one of their programs. So this has potential for us to fill up very quickly.
So we still obviously have an opportunity, 56 is great. It's more than we have now. But so this addition that we're doing to Donaldson Center, how many more will that add to
our capacity.
Yeah, we've created another flex space in there where we could add an additional 20 welding booths there. And then as Dr. Royster mentioned, in the long-range facility plan, as we redo subsequent facilities, we can certainly consider adding as well.
So we could potentially be adding more at the other sites.
Yeah, because with this, it put at the current first request, because a lot of those people, their second request, they got their first request. But if you just look at first request, picking up these 56 would get us 50% of this year's first request, district-wide. Because his first requests were 300, right?
Yes, 331. We're able to serve 100 of those, so
And so the
221
56
additional.
more would put us just below the 50%.
Okay.
But we still got expansion that we need to do there, but we need to include that as we are renovating and adding to these career centers.
And so how long have we had our welding programs? I mean, really long time.
Well,
Yeah, a couple of decades.
So
at
how
least,
long
yeah.
have there been like these substantial waiting lists? I mean, has it been like an increasing thing?
5 years maybe, Eric?
Yeah, I've been in this position for 7 years, and we've had waiting lists in welding specifically for as long as I can remember.
Okay, so that's just a consistent high demand.
It's been, and it's increased. The wait list probably was not near that size 5, 6, 7 years ago.
That's correct.
But it has steadily increased as the demand has increased. And as not only the demand increased, word's gotten out to students the amount they can earn in welding.
Yeah,
And that's boosted the interest in it as well.
okay. All right, well, I'm certainly happy to hear that we've been able to make that work. And then the last question I have has to do with the backpack transition. I just want to clarify for the record, what you envision this being will serve the concern, will be an improvement and serve the concerns that we heard in the special education forums and summits where they want to have all that information, data, progress reporting, all that stuff within being able to access it through the backpack. Or
Yeah, so-
through some version of the backpack.
You know, what we're seeking, that it have iOS and Android capability, mass communication platform, capability for two-way communication with parents, student discipline tracking system, student attendance tracking system, multi-tiered system of support tracking system, student grade reporting, student assessment reporting, student IEP 504, and ILAP reporting, student enrollment, student progress toward graduation, e-collection of forms, district and school websites hosting and publishing through a content management system, and integration with other GCS systems. That is the ideal, that's what we're looking for. Now, we don't yet know if that ideal exists
Okay.
that will cover every one of those bullets. That's our starting place, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, so assuming this transfer gets approved today, how long would it take to implement by the time you go through the process of?
I think we would be fortunate if we would be able to implement it at the end of next year, so next year going in. So the end of 26, 27, going into the 27, 28 school year.
Okay, so about a year from now.
Yeah, because one, we wouldn't want to shift systems during a year if we could avoid it.
Okay,
And it will take a while to put the RFP out. Then our concern is, will we even find something that does all this, or will there have to be some patch to it? So
okay,
it'll take a while to put it out, then it'll take a fair amount of time to analyze what we get back.
okay. All right, thank you so much, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Ms. Brett?
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. Dr. Stevens, can you tell me a little bit about, and I know I'm not going to say the word right, but the UKIRO system and how you go about deciding to use this and kind of, I guess, what staff will be trained, and just kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, I'll actually ask Ms. Hogan if she'll elaborate on that.
Thank you.
Did a fine job saying it. UKIRO, that's right. UKIRO is a de-escalation system. The district has predominantly used Crisis Prevention Institute, CPI, for de-escalation for many years. This is my 10th year here, and they were using it long before I came. In de-escalation, the goal is to never put your hands on the students, but in CPI training, there is what you have to do if a child is endangering themselves or others. There are other programs that do that, so what we wanted to do is work with de-escalation to look for another program that would be with the goal to not have hands-on students as much as possible to not put our hands on students. UCARU was a program that we piloted a couple years ago, and then this past year we rolled it out to a few more classrooms, predominantly in self-contained emotionally disabled classrooms. And what it is I will say MATs. The actual trainers would probably call it something else. I know they would, but a lot of it is blocking with something putting between you and a student if it comes at you. They're pads. To me, they look a little bit more like mats, but they're trained on, teachers and classroom assistants are trained on how to utilize more of a protection rather than stopping the student physically, if that makes sense. But it's a protection to the teacher and to the students. And we've had a lot of success with that in the classrooms where we have implemented it, where teachers are trained both in CPI and in UCARU. We have had a drastic decrease in any restraints.
That makes sense. Thank you. And then I have a question about the UDL training. Do we go through a specific company with the UDL training, or is exactly who does that training and who, what grades, et cetera? Is that everyone? Is that district-wide?
So I can also ask Ms. Hogan to elaborate on what the secondary level has done in the past, but specifically for what we're referring to here, we are talking about training teachers, gen ed and special education teachers on the strategies for UDL. We're more focused on the instructional practices than development of a school-wide plan, which is historically what Ms. Hogan can elaborate on the plans that our secondary schools developed. But for this specifically, we'll be using our own internal staff, our master teachers, our behavior specialists, our special education specialists, to really identify the appropriate strategies to use for specific students. But certainly, Tracy, if you could share the history of the school plans.
Sure. The organization is called CAST. They're a national organization. They do training with Universal Design for Learning across the country and in other countries. They're really the main experts. They have podcasts. They have training that they do in person, virtual training. They run conferences. It's a very well-run group. We, in the past, with the very first year when ATSI lists came out, and we had high schools and a few middle schools on that list needing to improve their outcomes for students with disabilities, we did absolutely target the students with disabilities through the gen ed portion of using Universal Design for Learning. So we partnered with CAST. That was coming right out of COVID. So we did virtual training with every school with high school was required to have a representative in those virtual trainings. Then as we moved through and did fall and spring goal conferences, they progressed to having implementation plans that they shared with their supervisors. And we made a really big push for it to come out through the gen ed side of academics and throughout the district so that gen ed teachers would understand they really were the main target. We targeted English and math since those were the end of courses that testing that we needed to look at in high school that we had the greatest deficiencies in. And of course, what we'll be monitoring that put them on the list. So the hope would be that we could transfer some of those things that we knew that worked. We also learned some things we could do better from that training and how we could support our schools, and hopefully we can take that to all levels.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Goodman-Caldwell.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Ms. Doolin.
Ms. Mosley asked some of my questions, but I'm curious about the Greenville Tech Brazier campus. Is there room there for more classes, or is it only welding?
There is potentially some room there for more classes. Right now it's kind of limited. There is some associated space with welding that's available if we need it. But right now what we want to start with is welding. Now there's no additional shop space there. There's some regular classroom space there.
when Golden Strip needs to relocate to build the new building on the campus where it currently is, where will those classes go?
Depending on what we choose to do with Golden Strip, if we choose to leave it where it is, then one option is to move the bus center and build on the site of the bus center, which is right next to it. The other option is to relocate Golden Strip to a different site. And we have some options where we can do that. Those are the two that immediately come to mind. It's possible, but it's probably not the most effective thing to do to build it while we occupy the current site on the same site. But that more minimizes utilization of the space.
Well, do you think there's any potential for Greenville Tech to want to ever sell that Brazier campus?
No, but they have some, right now they have additional classroom space, just regular classroom space. So there's some other possibilities. This is a good first step for us to partner with them. And the cost to us is really simply their cost to keep the facility up. Now, we got to do our own cleaning, that sort of thing. Yes, it's certainly less than we would lease a similar size building, and it would not be equipped. It's an excellent deal for us. The other thing that we did not speak specifically about, it also for students that may go there on that site for welding, they've got a very convenient connection to the next level of welding by simply going across the parking lot to the new building that has robotic welding, has
Artificial intelligence welding,
AI welding.
some other advanced technologies.
It is a state-of-the-art. I think there are a few others in the country where they went to benchmark their design against, but there are very few welding facilities in any sort of technical college that will equal the new facility at Greenville Tech. And the one that they're coming out of is a good facility. It is not run down, it is well kept, and it has up-to-date equipment in it. Not near the state-of-the-art they have in the new one, but up-to-date equipment.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in that location simply because it's sort of down in my area, and it would serve Fountain Inn and Woodmont more easily than maybe some of the other locations. So, are we ever going to need a 5th career center?
I mean, it's
I advocate for the lower end of the county.
well, there's certainly a possibility with the growth of career and technical programs that we might need a 5th one. At that point, I think the discussion becomes, is it better to further expand the ones we have or to build a 5th one? And if we were to build a 5th one, probably right now, I understand you're advocating for your community, but right now, probably the dead center of the county would be the place to put it. But being able to draw down populations at all 4 of the regional ones, and as you know, the issue with that is the very dead center of the county right now is the most expensive property anywhere in the county. But as we look down the road, either a 5th one in the center or a 5th one located where it seems there's the greater population demand, or expansion of the 4. And we already know that as we replace these, the ones we're replacing or renovating, that we will expand them to some degree. You know, the one at Bonds has considerable room to expand because of the size of that site. The others have some room to expand.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Ms. Dooley. Without objection, I will extend the time for 15 more minutes. Okay, Ms. Middleton.
So looking at these expenses, these are one-time expenses. Is that correct? With the
They are,
software programs and?
they are one-time expenses for several years. So many of them are on a 5-year cycle. So it advance funds what would be a cost for 5 years. At the end of that 5 years, either those programs will have to be replaced with the next iteration for 3 years or 5 years, or they would need to be included in your general fund budget. But this is a way not to impact the general fund budget and forward fund something for a 5-year period.
So these software programs, they're contracts?
Yeah, well, you got to buy the program, then there will always be an ongoing contract to maintain the program. In this case, it covers the purchase and 5 years of the ongoing contract.
If we decide, can we have, is there escape clauses in there, or who reviews and monitors the contracts to make sure that we're happy with them and that they're in compliance, the vendor, and that we don't want to switch to somebody else? Because 5 years is a long time.
It is the responsibility of the department that administers that program. So, for example, the ERP, it would be dependent, the two primary users would be dependent on HR and finance, so Ms. Stack and Mr. Davey, to ensure it is working as it's supposed to work. Most every one of our contracts has pretty much a 30-day termination for cause or no cause. But now the intricacies of these contracts and the sensitivity of what they do, we'd have to go through a process to ensure that we had made every effort to hold that vendor accountable. Switching out that ERP, that's a multi-year process. So we have to be very cautious that we don't just terminate that contract. We would do everything we could do to make sure it's working like it's supposed to. That's one of the reasons it takes so long to implement an ERP change. They're doing all kind of testing right now. And part of the funding in there related to ERP has to do with us wanting to make sure we're running both systems at the same time. So if something goes wrong with the new one, the other one is running in tandem with it, and we can pull the information we need out of that one. But we monitor every contract we have, and every contract we have has a termination clause in it.
Is there a type of audit that goes on with that, either through the vendor or through our own district that?
As part of our internal audits that we do every year, there are audits related to those processes in finance, audits related to the processes in HR.
That sounds good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Middleton. Mrs. LaVentus Wells.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell, Chairman, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. I would just like to give you a little bit of a shout out in history of college and high school. Dr. Tom Barton, who was a graduate of Clemson University, which he should have gone to Carolina, but he went to Clemson and played football there. He started Jumpstart College and High School back in the mid-1990s. And he implemented the first welding, and it was on the border of the West Virginia line at a career center. And I went up there with the department head of welding and talked to those students. At that time, in the late 1990s, they were making $60,000 coming right out of high school. Now think back about that, how long ago that was. But his vision was to implement and do dual credit with Greenville County schools. And from that point on, everything has transferred right into where we are today. The Brazier campus, Dr. Barton was good friends with Walt Brazier. He donated all of that property in that area, and that's why the name of the Brazier campus is what it is today. I'm not sure what the contract was when that was established, or the write-up on whether you could add on, add a school or whatever. But Dr. Barton was a visionary and cared so much about education and about all students who could not make it on the college level, but have a career that would be affordable for them to be able to take care of their families and their children. So I think this is great. I'm beside myself with excitement that we're today talking about this. And I think welding is always going to be a phenomenal career for students right out of high school. And I can't think of a better opportunity than what Greenville County School District is doing and all of the things that we're looking and moving forward into, and that Greenville Tech continues that legacy, and that we never forget who originated it. And that's why I felt the need to tell you that. So with that being said, I'm all in on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaVentus Wells. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. On page 2, at the bottom, the tiers 1 through 3, professional development, and the $2.1 million. I noticed, of course, it says by providing sustained high-quality training for educators and classroom aides, but it really doesn't go into hardly any specifics. I was wondering if somebody could give me some of the specifics about the types of training that are going to be part of that.
Sorry, Mr. Cochran, can you repeat to me where you are? Bottom of page 2?
Bottom of page 2, I think, where it's the tier 1 through 3.
That's really a summary, Mr. Cochran.
Right.
The bulleted points are what comprise that. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
Okay, that certainly makes a lot more sense there. So that breakdown, all the breakdowns that are part of the bulleted points are part of that 2.1 million.
They compose the 2.1 million. Yes, sir.
They make it up. Thanks. ERP, that stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What's the name of the current system that we've been using? Does it?
Lawson.
It's N4 Lawson.
N4 Lawson. And its implementation was 2010.
Yes.
They no longer support that, and that would be probably, from what we understand, probably a pretty normal life expectancy for an ERP system. And the one we're switching to is Oracle. It has another name that goes with it, or just Oracle.
Fusion, Oracle Fusion.
Oracle Fusion.
What's the annual cost of maintaining our current system?
It's a little bit more than Oracle's monthly or annual maintenance. It's a little over 2.5 million.
Okay. So while with the new system, it will be 4 million, but of course there will be some cost savings. We won't be putting out the 2.5 million anymore.
That's correct.
And Dr. Royster, if I understood you correctly earlier, in order to pay for that close to $4 million annual upkeep on the system, eventually that will either turn into a general fund budget item, or we would have to come back and do something, well, the board would have to come back and do something similar to what we're being asked to do today and approve a one-time withdrawal from the general fund budget. Is that correct?
Yes. You could put it in as an annual in the general fund, which is a legitimate general fund expense. We try to not do that if we can avoid that. Or you could do, you don't have to do a 5-year, you can do a 3-year window. But yes, those would be the two approaches.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to ask about, and this is briefly described on, I think, the bottom of page 6, but I was hoping someone could provide a more detailed description for me as to what's involved in the annualized pay group advance of the $3 million.
Short.
So,
Keep the pay group, hourly pay group, being paid in arrears. I.e., if they leave, we owe them money. If we don't pay them in arrears, if they leave, they might owe us money. So to shift this group over requires some funding up front. So that's a little over $3 million to shift that group over to make sure they're paid in arrears. Now, the upside to that is you get the $3 million back. The downside is you won't get it back till they all leave. So you might get a little bit of it back next year, you get a little bit of it back the following year in payroll savings. But we can't predict when it would all be paid, basically paid back, because we don't know the rate at which they might leave. But that would return to it, but allows them not to miss a pay period. The other way to fix this is to miss a pay period. We don't want to do that. So it's to forward fund that to get them on that 2 weeks in arrears. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Are there any others? I have one question about the Key to Ed training for new administrators and a refresher. The LEAs are usually the administrators in the building, correct? Yes. And both of these are mainly for special ed.
administrators.
These costs are for the programs for special ed, because the LEAs usually conduct the IEP meetings, correct?
So these trainers are for principals and assistant principals who serve as LEAs, yes ma'am, as IEP meetings.
So these costs are really directly with the special ed. We putting a lot of money into special ed, and so these are one-time fees?
Well, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell, I don't actually know that we could specifically say this is just isolated to special education. Certainly their role in an LEA specifically is a special education meeting, but a lot of the principles that are part of Key to Ed are communication and conflict resolution strategies that our principals use with staff, parents.
So is that what that professional development is?
Yes, it is really a series of strategies for communication and improved de-escalation and conflict resolution. A large portion of it applies to IEP meetings, but it actually is applicable to every interaction that administrators have.
One of the best summaries of that you can find, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell, if you look at the second bullet, Key to Ed training refresher, if you will look at the very last line, to enhance their facilitation skills in challenging meetings and strengthen their capacity for managing difficult conversations. That cuts across every aspect of school administration and supervision. Whether you're dealing with a student, whether you're dealing with a difficult parent conversation, whether you're dealing with a difficult employee conversation.
So most of so both of those are mainly for our administration. Administrators.
Yes, primarily
administrators
for
in the
principals,
buildings.
assistant
Okay.
principals who would be dealing with those
LEAs.
sorts of discussions and conversations on a regular basis. And certainly it is very applicable in the world of dealing with IEPs or dealing with 504 plans. But as is summarized well in that last line, It helps in any kind of difficult conversation, difficult topic.
Okay, is this gonna be, is non-recurring? This is only a one-time fee, or we gonna have this come to us every year?
As we get new administrators, we would have to do some new training, but that would be very minimal compared to this cost. Then there is refresher training for those who perhaps have lost their way in utilizing the things they learned.
So would that be part of our,
We do that.
basically our general fund?
We would likely do that through our routine staff development
In the years.
funding, when we get down to a more manageable number.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion or any other questions? Okay, can I have a maker of the recommended motion from the administration?
I'll motion to assign $18,050,300 of the general fund balance to fund the total cost of the items as presented.
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Doolin and second by Mr. Sailors. All in favor? Say aye. All opposed, nay. The motion is passed. Okay, our next part in administration is board officer candidate roster. Who's doing that? Dr. Presley.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. This item is just for information on Board Policy BBAA, outlines the Board of Trustees officer election process. I won't read all of that to you, but the roster of candidates is as follows. The candidate for chair is Dr. Carolyn Stiles. For vice chair, Linda Levinas Wells and Angie Mosley. And for secretary, Anne Marie Middleton and Ann Presley. And our officer elections will be held at the regular June board meeting. And the vote will be by a show of hands. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Presley. Dr. Stiles, I turn it back over to you. That ends the administrative part.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. Our fifth matter of business is building and grounds, and Mr. Klein will be chairing this section. Mr. Klein, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. First on the agenda that we have up is the 5.01, which is a facilities project update, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Colonel Carl and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. I don't think there's anything of particular note to draw your attention to. Project update.
Mr. Klein.
Yes, sir. I have a question from Dr. Sailors. Mr. Sailors.
That's okay. I've been called I have been called a lot of things, so I'm good. Colonel, related to the athletic transformation to artificial turf, the section there.
Yes, sir.
You have Riverside, Woodmont, Eastside, Fountain Inn, and Hillcrest, all that have been awarded.
Yes, sir.
Same firm. They got the bandwidth to do 5 at one time?
Believe so.
And it starts when? It says the summer, but that's a 3-month process. It has a lot of heat to it, so.
Yeah, effectively, depending on the school, whenever they're done with their season, we're gonna get out there.
And the timeline for completion is roughly, just a reminder for everybody.
It's a good 90 days.
So football season will be affected?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Ms. Brett, you have a question?
Thank you. Looking at page 35, of the $33+ million that we are being asked to transfer,
On the facilities project update.
where are we? Well, I'll ask that question next.
Somebody's an overachiever today.
Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell?
And she speaks.
Colonel Carlin, is there a reason why the ones that did the first two, Wade, Hampton, and Greenville, didn't get these next contracts?
I'm very surprised that one of them did. That one of them did not. The group that got Greenville High Stadium, I was very surprised that they didn't get at least one of these. But they were not successful. They were not low.
So when will they start with this, with putting the turf down, the one that have those 5 high schools?
We plan just as soon as their spring seasons are over, we're going to get started.
And they will be finished by August?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Based upon that, this was for information only. We will now move to 5.02, which is the architect selection for the new Donaldson Career Center. And I'll pass that along to Dr. Royster.
For Donaldson Career Center, there were 11 firms that submitted qualification packages, which were reviewed and ranked by the selection committee. In accordance with the procurement code, the architectural selection committee held interviews with the top 5 ranked firms. Upon board approval, the administration will begin negotiating architectural fees with the highest ranked firm. If negotiations are unsuccessful, the administration will continue negotiation with each succeeding ranked firm until a successful negotiation is achieved. And our recommended motion is to approve the architectural firm with which successful fee negotiations are achieved for the new Donaldson Career Center.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Sailors.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the administration's recommendation.
We have a second? Second by motion made by Mr. Sailor, second by Dr. Stiles. All in approval, say aye.
Aye.
All
He didn't call
Sorry.
this discussion.
That is correct. I got jumped by Mr. Sailors.
Always my fault.
Whenever we choose the plans for Donaldson Career Center, would that be brought before us to see what they plan? Because I know, I've heard that some of the programs would be eliminated and stuff like that, so I want to see the plans.
Any new construction, new building construction, not additions or renovations, we provide the board an opportunity to see the plans before we move forward with it.
Okay.
The plans really don't have anything to do with program until we decide if a space is not needed or additional space is needed.
Ms. Lynn, as well, did you have a question?
No, I do not.
Follow up, but since we've already had a motion and a second, we're voting on this. So I'll call the vote. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Everyone opposed say no. The motion carries. We'll move to 5.03, which is long-range facilities. Capital improvement, and I'll pass it over to Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. As you recall, we had a fairly lengthy workshop on the long-range facility plan prior to this meeting. However, we do want to summarize, which Mr. Britton will do, our population projections, growth trends, space availability. Certainly any question you have from the entire presentation before he'll answer, but he'll do a summary of that. Then Mr. Carlin will summarize primarily the changes to the long-range facility plan, which have to do with adjusting, in most cases, adjusting some dates for start and completion, and in one case, a fairly significant change from simply a remodeling at Bond's Career Center to demo of all the building except for the shop facility, which was constructed in the 90s. And then we have some fund balance requests related to capital projects, funding some of the changes, as well as funding purchase of computerized scrubbing and stripping machines to create greater efficiency and to redirect some resources to other facilities' needs. So, Mr. Britt?
Good morning. Thank you all for having me here today. As Dr. Worcester said, I'll be summarizing and going through each of these slides for our long-range facilities plan. We'll discuss county population data, housing, market, charter, homeschool, virtual enrollment, as well as our own enrollment trends. We'll give you an update on student enrollment projections, and then I'll hand it over to Scott and Robin. So first, looking at our county population data, here we have it outlined in blue and the school district population in green. We've had a year-over-year increase in county population in the last 5 years from 1.5 to 3% growth. Most recently, we gained nearly 13,000 new residents in Greenville County. Historically, in conjunction with the county's population, we've also had year-over-year growth. That did not occur for this current school year, as we went over in the workshop, and we'll continue to give you an update on that in this presentation. Looking at the county population by age, in the last several years we've talked about the aging of Greenville County's population in those 50 plus brackets. That's continued. We've seen an increase in those, but slightly less this time. But then what we are starting to see is the age brackets 22 to 29 and 30 to 39 continuing to grow. I think they grew over 5,000 new residents, and that's important because according to the CDC, those two age brackets are responsible for the highest percentage of births, which we're beginning to see in Greenville County as well. Looking at the housing and economy, we're continuing to see a leveling off in single-family building permits being issued in Greenville County. We had that spike in 2021 that we've mentioned several times, but we did have a slight decrease from 4,900 to 4,300 this year. Multifamily building permits continue to see variability, but we've now had 2 years of growth in multifamily building permits, most recently 1,032. Here we have a map that conveys all the single-family subdivisions or multifamily housing that's been approved or submitted. So these aren't necessary, they weren't all approved, but we did want to convey where developers are attempting to develop in our attendance area. And you can see it's across the district. Primarily, the larger scale single-family subdivisions, so 50 or more houses, are in the southern portion of our attendance area in Zone 4 and Zone 5, and then most of our multifamily housing is primarily located in and around Greenville. The economy, so here we have job announcements of 50 or more. That's continued to happen. We have those 420 that we discussed, and then during the workshop, and then we mentioned the Isuzu and GE Vernova in last year's long-range facility plan, but we included them this year because they were announced in January and February of last year. This one is articles, so just keeping it up to date on what people are saying about Greenville County. And we highlighted that article on the left from the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce. And since several of the news agencies have picked it up as well and have been posting on social media about the influx of new residents in the state of South Carolina. South Carolina's fastest growing by percentage according to the U.S. Census Bureau. But what we really highlighted was the nature of who's moving here, and it's been led by domestic migration, so people moving from neighboring states or maybe across the country. But we also had growth in international migration, and that actually decreased quite a bit this year, and I think it was a decrease of roughly 20,000 residents. So still continuing to grow exceptionally, but who's moving here does affect our enrollment potentially. And then you can see the other articles show that our automotive and manufacturing sectors are continuing to grow, and we continue to be a hot spot for both tourism and new residents. Looking at charter, homeschool, virtual enrollment trends, we've had year-over-year growth in the Greenville County homeschool enrollment, so residents participating in this program for the last 5 years. As we've seen with charter schools, and these are Greenville County brick and mortar charter schools, so these are schools within our attendance area. So we've seen year-over-year growth amongst homeschool and charter. Here we have new and revised charter announcements. This is just what's changed in the last year. We have Career Prep Academy. They'll be adding grades 3, 4, 5, and 8 for this upcoming year with a full build out of 762 students. Legacy Early College announced plans to expand to 3,000 by 2028, and they'll begin construction on a new site off West Marion Road this year. East Link Academy moved from Limestone to South Carolina Public Charter School District. And then we've also included Libertas Academy in Woodruff. It's not actually in our attendance area, but it's just right outside, so we anticipate some effects there. And a slight update, that little bottom note, there were 7 applications filed in January. We've been monitoring that since. I think 5 of the applications have been withdrawn, but we're still tracking the others here in the next month. Looking at the charter virtual school enrollment, if you look at the state of South Carolina, it increased year over year from 18,000 to 19,000, but we actually saw a decrease in Greenville County resident students participating from 1,800 to 1,700. Looking at our own data enrollment trends, our elementary, we had a substantial amount of growth after 2020 of students returning back to our system, and then we had year over year growth for 3 more years. This most recent year, we had a decrease of 700 students. At the middle grades, we have had year over year decrease. That subsided quite a bit last year, but then increased by more for the current year. And then the high school, you can see that surge of enrollment we received after 2020 of growth of 942, 863 students. And then we've had now 2 years of consecutive decreases as those larger classes begin to exit our system. We also like to denote the transient nature of our district. Here we have 3 different lines. The first one is the number of students who've moved at least one time in the last academic year, and that was 6,737 students. Prior year was actually 500 more, so we've seen less students move within our attendance boundary. The number of students who are no longer in our system, so they've exited year over year, was 7,080. That's an increase from last year where we were at 6,941. And then the number of students who are new to our system was 5,688, and that's a decrease of over 1,000 students from last year where we were at 6,703. Another note is our Hispanic growth. So on average, the last 3 years, we've grown 971 new Hispanic students in our attendance area. And this year, we saw a substantial decrease where we only grew 36 new students. If you look back in the last 20 years to 2006, we've on average grown nearly 600 new Hispanic students. So that's something that we'll continue monitoring. With the growth subsiding, we've also had an opportunity to offer more school choice for our families in Greenville County schools. We've expanded by 557 students. At the elementary level, we grew 300, middle school almost 50, and the high school over 200. This includes change in assignment, CTC, IB, and Magnet. So looking to the future of our enrollment projections, here we have a complex table of our historical grade progression ratios. The grade progression ratio is just simply showing the ratio at which students transition from first to second grade, for example. We do that at every single school and every single grade and track that. I have outlined 2020 and 2021 in red as a stochastic event that kind of changed our numbers substantially. You can see prior to that, from 2016 to 2019, our historical grade progression ratios are quite consistent. Also forgot to mention the white ratios indicate an annual decrease, and the black ratios indicate an annual increase, or that ratio remains static. So prior to 2020, if we saw a change, it usually was within 0.01 decimal change, right? After that, we started seeing a little bit more changes occur. You can see all white or all black lines there, or the ratios would change by more or greater than 0.01. So we saw the difference. Some key ones to look at. The first is that 8th to 9th grade progression ratios, that line. You can see it in 21, 22, steep increase. We went to 1.17, and then we had 1.16, and it kind of levels out. And then we had a steep decrease this year to 1.07. Then looking at 5th to 6th grade, you can see for the last decade, we've been at 0.96, 0.97, but this current year, we dropped to 0.92. So quite a bit of changes that we've experienced over the last 4 years in our grade progression ratios. Another thing with our grade progression ratios is our cohort percentage of 5K enrollment. So I have a table on the left that conveys the cohort percentage. That is the percent of students that we received from 5 years ago, the total births. So we were receiving 90 in the low 90s percentages of the total births from 5 years prior to 2020. After that, we saw a steep decrease in 2020 at 76.67. Then it leveled out for a few years where we're at 88, 87, had a slight decrease at 86 in 2024. But this most recent year, we experienced a pretty steep decrease at 83.76%. The graph on the right conveys our past enrollment and potential enrollment. So you see the yellow line represents the total births in Greenville County. The blue line represents our historical kindergarten enrollment. You can see that we've continued to track up. We've had slight ups and downs here recently. What I'll point out, though, is the green dashed line and the red dashed line are potential scenarios of our cohort percentage. And what you'll see is that the green conveys if we were to return back to the high 80s, so in the 87, 88% cohort percentage. And then the red line denotes if we were to continue decreasing in our cohort percentage amongst 5K enrollment. What you'll note, though, is that in both scenarios, we continue to grow in our total K-5 enrollment. So even if we were to decrease in our cohort percentage slightly, we would continue growing because the total births in Greenville County have continued to increase after 2021. And actually, in 2020, this last year, we've actually experienced the most births that we had on record in Greenville County, and that goes back to the 90s. So looking at our elementary school enrollment projections, you can see the year-over-year growth that we experienced since 2020, where it peaks in 2024, and then we have 2 consecutive years of decrease. As that cohort percentage begins to level out with the increase of total births, we would see an increase in our total elementary school enrollment over the next several years. Looking at the middle school enrollment, you can see the year-over-year decrease that we just discussed, and then it drops to 2026. But as larger middle school or elementary grades begin to exit, smaller middle school classes exit their respective grades, and then a cohort percentage once again is leveling out, we see an increase in middle school enrollment. The high school enrollment here and projections, you can see the year-over-year increase we experienced after 2020. It peaks in 2023, and then we have a year-over-year decrease as those classes begin to exit out all the way to 2028. Then we kind of level out in 2029, 2038, but we level out at a point where our enrollment was still higher than it was prior to 2020. So in summary, our total county population continues to grow. Greenville continues to be a desirable place for new residents. We're tracking that as age brackets, especially 22 to 39, as that we're seeing an increase in total births. Residential development has continued to stabilize. We didn't have those surges that we had after 2020. Our charter and homeschool enrollment continues to increase in our attendance area, as well as school choice opportunities in our own district continue to expand with slowed growth in our enrollment. And then student population projections reflect slow growth and reflect an increase in outside enrollment options. So looking at projects to be occupied by 2030, we had Fountain Inn, High School Addition, Reedy Laurel, and Woodland open in 2025. We have the Northwest Middle School and the Ralph Chandler Middle School additions in 2027. Then we have the Fountain Inn K-8 conversion in 2028, as well as the Bryson new Bryson Middle School in 2028. The Bryson Middle School, we didn't put seats added on there. It'll replace, but we're also moving it into a different attendance area. So we did want to denote that, as well as Fountain and K8 is in Bryson Middle School's attendance area currently. We have other projects that include Food and Nutrition Services Center in 2026, the Central Office Edition in 2027, Donaldson Career Center in 2029, and the new South Bus Center in 2030. Looking a little bit further out, we have the Grove Elementary Edition in 2031, as well as Montague and Welcome additions and renovations in 2031. Then we have Crestview Elementary renovation in 2032, as well as the Hughes Academy renovation and replacement in 2032. Then in 2033, we have Tanglewood Middle Edition. Looking at our other projects, we have the J. Harley Bonds Career Center renovation and replacement, 2031, the Inner Career Center renovation and replacement in 2033, as well as Golden Strip and West Greenville School in 2033. And then we propose to move that one to 2031. So now I'll hand it over to Scott.
Okay, as Dr. Royster began, this year's capital improvement program is largely similar to last year's, with a few additions, adjusted occupancy dates, and plan updates. Beginning with new facility items, the plan includes extended car rider loops at 5 schools to improve traffic flow. Those schools include Bethel Elementary, Bryson Elementary, Greenbrier Elementary, and Skyland Elementary, and Wade Hampton High School. These locations have been carefully studied, demonstrating not only the need to reduce traffic congestion, but also to ensure the existing campuses can accommodate drive loop extensions. Having recently concluded upgrading our lighting systems to LED for school buildings and exteriors, we've also included LED upgrades for our high school stadiums. These upgrades will not only renew this aging infrastructure, but provide better lighting for competition play, reduce glare for our athletes, and reduce light spillage to the local communities. This year's plan also includes a renovation project for Serene Stadium to restore the concrete bleacher seating for the home and visitor sides. The existing concrete has experienced a significant amount of weathering over time. Some attempts have been made over the past 10 years or so to check this, but it is now time for a major overhaul. Stadium bleachers will be thoroughly cleaned, damaged concrete will be repaired, and a high-grade coating system will be installed to protect the infrastructure and vastly improve the overall appearance of the stadium. We've also included robotic sweepers and scrubber sets for the school district. Since 2021, we have been studying robotic technology with an eye towards custodial floor cleaning. In August of 2025, we began piloting robots at 8 school locations with great success. As floor care is the most labor-intensive custodial task in our schools, these units provide a unique opportunity to refocus custodial efforts on other important tasks, like cleaning high touch points in our classrooms and administrative areas, and more time focused on areas such as cafeterias, media centers, restrooms, and athletics. Regarding project cost impacts, while public sector work remains strong, private developer work is still relatively cool. Labor remains a concern, but material costs, for the most part, appear to be stabilizing. Over the last 8 months or more, we have continued to experience a high level of participation and competition for our work, and particularly our major projects. With that said, we believe we are getting back to a more normal rate of inflation. Obviously, fuel costs and the turmoil in the Middle East remain a concern, and we will continue to monitor those issues going forward. I also should mention that there's currently a bill that has cleared the House and is in the Senate Finance Committee, so we're unsure as to whether it will make it this year. But it would require all public entities, including political subdivisions like ours, to use only American-made steel in any of our projects. Now, our contractors already use American-made steel. But when you come down with a mandate like that and you reduce supply, then there's a strong chance that prices are going to go up because of the reduction in supply. So more to come on that, but that is something we're watching as well. For this year's plan, we have adjusted the occupancy date for West Greenville School. As we moved the occupancy date for the Donaldson Career Center replacement project up 2 years in last year's plan, we are moving West Greenville up similarly in this plan to occupy in August of 2031. This year's plan also includes 3 updates. J. Harley Bonds Career Center was originally scheduled to undergo some minor renovations and the construction of a new culinary art wing. However, after further study, we have determined that the original building has reached the end of its useful life and is in need of replacement. The new plan includes maintaining the existing high base shop building that was constructed in 2002 and raising and replacing the original 1954 building that was formerly Greer High School. This will not only completely renew the Career Center campus, but will also reduce the overall building footprint and associated square footage and provide for greater efficiency and effectiveness for instruction. Secondly, this year's plan includes a modest increase to the capital equipment line item to accommodate cost increases for items such as vehicles and large mowing equipment. And finally, we've included an increase for site acquisition to continue to gain necessary acreage to support the long-range facility plan now and into the future. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about security enhancements. One of the things that we've been doing over the last few years as the result of a fire code requirement is when we build additions on schools, when we build new schools, the requirement is that when the first responders come inside the building, their radios that they use have to work in all areas of the building. Not all our buildings, particularly ones with high concrete and steel quantity, allow that without what's known as a BDA, or a bidirectional amplifier. So what typically happens is we bring in a company, if it's an existing school, and we're going to put an addition on, and they'll do some testing to figure out whether we need to add one of these BDAs. This is becoming more and more prevalent in everything we're doing. Greg Porter is heavily involved with all the, of course, first responders. He is in the process of doing an analysis of all our facilities to determine need. But that is included in this budget this year to make sure that we can cover all our facilities and make sure we have the appropriate communication for our first responders. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robin Stack to talk about financials. Robin?
Thank you, Scott. The first sheet you see here is the projects the board has approved through 2025, and the proposed projects for 2026, and those projects are highlighted in green.
Sorry, forgetting my Vanna White responsibility here.
The next page is just the proposed changes. And as Scott just described, it's broken into 2 different sections. You have your facility projects, which are your West Greenville School, which has been moved up 2 years from an occupancy date of August 33 from August 31. On that project, we saved $1.8 million because we no longer need all of the escalation for having it opening up later in the years. J. Harley Bonds, there is a additional cost to having a new building versus renovations. That additional cost is $52.1 million, and that total cost for that project will be $62.3 million. The next section is your capital equipment replacement program, and as Scott talked about, the site acquisition is increasing by $3.2 million. Capital equipment replacement annual allocation will be increased by $100,000 annually. Then we go to robotic sweepers and scrubbers. This is the initial purchase, which is $9.3 million. Then we plan for a replacement scheduled out in years 33, 34, and 35, and the cost to that is $11.8 million. We want to extend the LED lighting project to cover our athletic stadiums, and that's a $5.7 million project cost. Extending the car rider loops and improved traffic flow is a $9.6 million cost. The stadium seating of renovation at Serene Stadium is funded by the athletic facility line that's already in the plan. And finally, your security enhancements, that line that is not painted or colored green is what we've gotten previous presentations that are one-time uses. I'm sorry, that's the annual increase every year or allocation every year, but the green line, which is new, is an additional $6 million for set aside for one-time uses that Scott described. The next slide is the recommendation to fund the CIP as presented is within the current bond funding structure, which means there's no anticipated millage increase, and a transfer of $33,847,000 from the unassigned general fund balance to the building fund. And that's the funding picture. Questions?
The only thing I would add to the STAC's funding is, based on our calculations, we would be not only inside the 48.5, we would reduce the 48.5 to 47.5, sell bonds up to the amount that 47.5 would fund. So a $1 million reduction in debt service.
Thank you, Ms. Stack and Colonel Carlin and Mr. Britton. One of the things that I didn't know coming on board is how much stuff goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people in the public don't understand. And for y'all to bring this the way you do to me and to all of us is exceptional. I thank you for all taking the time to bring it forward to us. Currently, we have a recommended motion from the administration to approve the long-range plans. Do I have a maker of the motion? Oh, I thought we did.
You can go either way.
Okay. We'll do questions first. I know, Ms. Brett, you had a question?
Now it's my turn, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome, thank you. Robin, I'm looking at our balance sheet that I could just pull up real quickly, and it's from December. I don't know if this is the most accurate numbers, but right now, in our building fund, I'm seeing two different numbers. Am I correct that we have about $475 million in the building fund right now as it is?
Let me check.
It's either that or 523,784,435. But again, that was December.
So I can get that number to you, but the way building fund, because I can't put my fingers on it. The way building fund is budgeted each year, even though we move the total dollar to the building fund, when we come to you for CIP purposes. What you see budgeted is just the amount of money we're going to use for that specific year. The rest of it will be held in fund balance, like a assigned fund balance for the rest of the project costs. So every year, the budget is updated by the amount of the budget for that year.
Okay, so still looking at the same balance sheet, it says the unassigned fund balance as of December was $189,553,328.
And that's for general fund?
Unassigned fund balance, yep, general fund, yep.
Yes, ma'am.
So having the, I guess, underneath that, it says that the total fund balance is 202 million with some change. So moving money from the unassigned fund balance into the building fund, even though the building fund says that we have roughly between $473 million and $523 million. What, is that saying that we don't have enough money in that building fund to cover these costs that are additional to what we have budgeted? Is that what that's saying? Asking us to move it that way?
Yeah, I guess you could, because we're asking you to move money from the unassigned fund balance out of the general fund to the building fund to actually fund these new projects we're putting before you.
Okay. And of that $33 million that we're being asked to move, am I correct that 20 million of that is going to robot cleaning devices? About how many of those are we buying and how much are they each? Do we know the answer to that?
I'll call and speak to that. As he's coming forward, though, the other way to think about that amount in the building fund, you will recall that for several years, we've asked the board to transfer general fund balance to the building program for building projects. We don't pay for all those in 1 year. So Robin will put that, she will transfer it to the building fund. She will put it in a project fund within the building fund. So there may very well be money that you approved 2 years ago sitting in a project that won't start for 3 more years.
So that's not a part of the balance sheets that we see?
Yes, it will show on your balance sheet.
In the projects and stuff?
It will show in that total balance. That's why it's more than what would be generated in 1 year.
Okay.
The other thing that's important to recall when you're looking at the building fund, because most of it is funded by bond sales, if we want to put aside money for future projects to be able to offset the need to increase millage to pay for them, we can't take that out of a current year bond sale. It would be subject to arbitrage. We got to spend that money in, generally speaking, 18 months. So when we load money for a future project, like maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, it needs to come out of the fund balance transfer, which is not subject to arbitrage rules. It's not subject to the same rules from the IRS as bond sales. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Enough sense.
So that money is all, I guess the other way to look at it, that money is already all designated for a purpose.
Somewhere. Right.
And it is sitting in a project budget. You could just probably pick any project on that line, and there's some money that came from fund balance transfer sitting in that project.
And we keep it that, I guess, that bulky for our credit ratings, right?
For what?
For the credit ratings and for our bond.
Well, we don't want you to have to approve any additional millage to sell bonds beyond what we already sell. That's a way to offset increased cost. It's a way to bring projects into construction sooner, which also offsets increased cost. And it's a way to perform projects that we ordinarily would not have the capacity to perform.
Okay.
And then I think Colonel Carlin has the specifics on the.
Yeah, let's talk about some robots. So
Yes, so
the initial is 9.3. That's to buy the rest.
that's
of
to
them.
purchase.
Okay.
And then like Ms. Stack was talking about, the down the road cost, the higher cost is for schedule replacement of those.
Okay. And have we looked into how much per hour that comes down to? Like, are these robots, I assume they're like the ones you see that run and then they go back to their hub and then they run again. So hourly, is there a breakdown of cost of that? Is it better for us to have a janitor doing this, or is it, per hour?
And I mentioned in the presentation that it is the most time-consuming task that they do. Now, we didn't even think we'd be here right now a couple of years ago, based on what the predictions were. But they're now at the point technology-wise where these scrubbers and sweepers are smart enough to, as you said, leave their docking station, come back to their docking station after they've covered the entire floor area, to take on water and to remove water, so that the interaction with the custodial staff is slim to none. We have not looked at it, the per hour cost, but I can tell you that performance-wise, these sets will cover about an acre of floor area. Think Blue Ridge High School, in about 6 to 7 hours, while the custodial staff can be doing some of these other things that robots are not able to do right now.
Are they equipped to do the gymnasium floors and that sort of thing too?
We're not the gymnasium floors, are we, Bay?
Clean.
They can clean it.
But they can clean
Yeah.
it, right? Okay.
The other aspect of this that we haven't talked as much about, you ask about cost. The operating cost is about half of what the current scrubbing machines are. Electricity, energy, supply, it more efficiently uses materials too.
Okay.
It also, there is a loss of efficiency with human operation. Sometimes people will retrace their own steps unknowingly. It doesn't. It follows what it's laid out to do. And we've run 8 locations
Since August.
Which is bearing out what we believed about the latest generation of this. The other thing is we should be able to reduce custodial personnel allocations. We need to refocus some of that reduction on enhancing our grounds and exterior maintenance. For one, pressure washing the outside of buildings. We have one crew doing that and we're not able to keep up with it. The other is to reduce the carryover work orders for the grounds crew. Then we should be able to still realize a savings in positions as soon as we calculate exactly how many positions we can reduce. Won't be necessarily a loss of jobs. We'd cover that by attrition or assigning them to roles in grounds. But this is far more efficient than the time we're spending right now in doing stripping and scrubbing. And there's a reason if you go in, the big box stores, there's a reason they're using them. That's the same reason you'd find them in other large warehouse or manufacturing facilities. A person, one of our people operating that is a person of about $49,000 a piece, salary and fringe.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Mr. Sailors?
Couple here. Let me start with Drew. I got 2 for you, brother. Post-board workshop, I sent a question across. I'm curious to find out where the new subdivisions were being established and
Say that one more, that last part.
How many of the subdivisions that are being planned that we might be aware of are 55 and older?
So we wouldn't know if they are 55 and older without going to them and visiting. Oftentimes, Skip will try to get something from the developer to be aware of that. I don't think we have it.
Just we find out as it progresses. There are a handful. Del Webb, the large one.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect us.
Well, and the reason I asked that, when you look at the map and you see here's the school, and it is surrounded by 5 flags that are subdivisions. Okay, is that 5 flags of potential school-age children, or is it 3 flags of school-age children in 2 retirement communities?
And that is something that when we go to these, we do every summer, we're going out to every single subdivision and tracking. Skip's also looking at permits being issued to see, or COs. But yeah, when we go out, we try to identify, if we don't already know, the potential yield, and we calculate that when doing projections, as well as we calculate that when we're seeing homes being occupied and any changes that we need to make.
That's helpful, thank you. One other thing under the demographic information, it was, I think we've all seen these numbers on more than one occasion, but the dramatic drop in our Hispanic population. Where are they gone? Do we have any idea where they went to? Because at some point in time, they could possibly return, and we need to be prepared for that.
Correct. We've met with multiple agencies, and they've also seen, and other districts, and that is something that is not exclusive to us.
You're right.
And it's affecting certain occupations as well, in and around Greenville County, as well as South Carolina and regionally. But to answer where they went.
Okay. Colonel Carlin, got 3 for you, brother. You talked about the stadium lighting.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Cuts down on light pollution, as you mentioned. What about upgrading the sound systems for these stadiums? Because it sounds like, in some places, it sounds like they're trying to announce out of a beer can.
I can't speak to the sound system specifically, other than security in the last few years, I think, replaced a lot of those systems. They're maintaining them now. I'm not familiar with what the replacement cycle.
Well, one of the problems is they try to utilize them at a higher rate than they're built for, and that does damage the system.
There is some user applications.
But are we looking at potentially addressing that once the lighting systems are addressed?
We can look at that again. As I recall, I don't remember what year it was, we invested a good bit in system replacement.
Right.
When we replaced those systems, we basically locked controls to them. Because to your point, what was happening, well-intended people who didn't know what they were doing would decide, I'll just raise these volume levels up. Well, they raised them up and it blew out the system.
Correct.
They were set to operate a certain way. So if we're continuing to have issues with the sound systems not being sufficient, then we need to look at that at each of the 15. But we put a good bit of money in it, and I was trying to remember how many years ago that was, and it may have predated Colonel Carlin by a year or 2. And I know we've replaced some in the last 2 or 3 years. In fact, we unfortunately replaced a couple and finally said to the school, if there's another one, you'll buy it. Because it was from not having properly utilized it. And they're instructed on how to use it in the way that it's intended to be used.
Okay, thank you. If I could for a moment revisit your comment about the legislation related to Made in the U.S. steel. As someone who also works in the industry that you're discussing, the issue at hand is not necessarily Made in the USA requirement. It's also the fact that it calls for this product to be made in the United States from ore to final product.
Very good point.
The manufacture of the sheet goods and the roll goods that you would make to build a building like this are U.S. produced. But over the last 2-3 decades, the rare earth minerals that produce that steel come from outside this country. And the problem that a lot of folks have in the construction industry and in the public service sector that buys this, as you mentioned, is that in order for the United States to ramp up a significant ore producing process to meet the need is where the problem comes in, because the United States is deferred to buying it from overseas because it's cheaper. So I just wanted those that are listening to this to understand that it's not just a piece of steel you see on the side of a truck. It is from the earth mineral all the way to when it comes into a building like this. That's what that bill's talking about. Laudable goal, but the timing is, quite frankly, very problematic, especially when you're talking about trying to build what we're trying to build with public dollars and keeping the money under control. And I think our General Assembly needs to be reminded of that. Third thing, speaking of steel, when you're budgeting out past 2030, what kind of an inflation factor are we currently using?
For anything within the plan, there's a 3% inflation factor. Now, as we get closer in the timeline to that project actually becoming a reality, Dr. Royce is going to ask me to relook at some of these projects, and if there's been scope changes or there's been something that's gone haywire out in the economy, we're going to make those adjustments so that we just, we don't go blindly into the project with this continued 3% if we need to make adjustments.
Well, right now, 3 to 3.5 seems to be the industry standard. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
As a follow-up to that, too, Ms. Sowers, as a reminder, I mentioned that I made this comment earlier. That is one of the reasons that we, as you know, pull up projects to try to avoid cost increase.
Yes, sir.
That's where this comes into play today in requesting fund balance to be able to pull up projects. Thank you. The timeline.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. I guess, first of all, this is a request maybe to Mr. Britton, but as part of the long-range facility plan document that we were provided, there was a chart listing student population by high school attendance zone and the difference from last year to this year, and it was using, I think, the 15-day student count. I'm wondering if the board could be given a chart similar to that would break it down further and show that difference from school to school instead of just by high school attendance.
Yes, of course.
Great, thanks. And my one other question that I wanted to ask, I know a lot of our schools are extremely well utilized. The utilization percentage as far as the students we have there and the students that the capacity of the building, like say, is very close to the same. But in the few situations where we have buildings that are currently not utilized to that extent, I noticed one of our elementary schools, for example, currently has about a 62% utilization rate. I'm just wondering in general, and I know that there would be differences specifically from one school to another, but just in general, is that more a situation where the attendance, the number of students in that zone is no longer what it once was, or does that have a lot to do with school choice or some combination?
There would be some combination of that. I don't know which school specifically you're speaking of. Know which school specifically you're speaking of, but we experience the phenomenon frequently of neighborhoods aging out. So a lot of young families, the neighborhood I live in has done that. I've been there 21 years. It's happened at least twice in 21 years. Right now, there are a lot of younger children in the neighborhood. They tend to stay in that neighborhood maybe until they graduate from high school or college. Then those families will move somewhere else, maybe a smaller place or whatever. But we'll go through a period of time where they'll have fewer children by level. Then it'll regenerate. You'll have more elementary, then more middle, and more high school. And we see that throughout the county. That is not restricted to one neighborhood or even 2 or 3 neighborhoods. You then have schools that that people perhaps are choosing more so to go somewhere else for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the program perhaps appeals to them more. A lot of times it's convenience. That's on the way to work, and I'll drop my child off on the way to work or pick them up on the way home. So there are a lot of factors that go into that. We generally don't recommend like boundary changes related to that unless we believe we're reaching a point where it's not feasible to operate that school anymore. Now that would have to be a very low percentage because it's not likely that there are schools in close proximity to it that could absorb 100% of that school's population. It is always less expensive from an operational standpoint to run a larger school than a smaller school. But once you're running it, unless you can easily move students in there and actually shut down a school, there's not really an operational savings to it. Because almost all our personnel are allocated based on student population formulas. So that's going to follow that group of students around. The base cost, principal, plant engineer, some things like that would be reduced if you closed a school. Generally speaking, if the other factor there is if you have room in the other schools for students who may be choosing to go there or whatever, you may not necessarily want to rezone and require students to go there, which then would limit individual choice to be able to go there. And you don't necessarily know what cycle the communities that feed that school might be in, their attendance. And you can see that over time. Attendance will go up and down. One in close proximity to us right now would be Greenville High. Their attendance over the last several years is very high. It's much lower this year. Now that probably won't last. It'll cycle in a different direction. There are very few schools, and probably the only really consistent example has been Greer High School. It is probably 500 students below its capacity, and it has probably always been, but that goes back to some decisions made 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. But the schools around it are not overcrowded, the high schools, so there's not really anything prompting changing boundaries to move students in there. That's just maybe a handful of kind of examples related to your question.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Dr. Presley.
Well, I try not to share anecdotal stuff, but this is just a quick one about the robot question. Will these be used inside or like within the parameters of the school day?
They can be operated during the school. They're autonomous. They have LiDAR, radar. If somebody was to step in front of it, it would stop immediately. If the kids that we have found in the elementary schools have got great questions. How does it work? How does it see? What makes it run? We operate in the schools. The sweepers come in after intake in the morning. They sweep the entrances, go back out again during recess period to sweep up again. They can run during the school day. They can run at night with the lights off. They don't need lights to run. They're autonomous. And they learn. They get more efficient as they go.
Okay, great. And my question actually had more to do with folks who might be walking behind it. I was pumping my gas at the QT the other day and became verklempt as the price point went up and needed to go inside to procure a bag of corn nuts to soothe myself. And when I did, I happened to fall in step behind one of said robots, and it had a slick spot that was following behind it. And y'all were about to be looking at me up here with a broken hip had I not grabbed onto the Coke machine. But anyway, I say all that to say, are we putting things in place to ensure that folks don't fall in behind, or do the robots or whomever have the opportunity to put down those caution wet surface things behind it? I know that's a really low-level granular question, but I just lived it at the QT.
We would be running sweepers more during the day than the scrubber. The scrubbers would be run when the population of the location is down. We looked at the scrubbers that QT is using. We disqualified them quickly because of just what you mentioned. So yeah, the sweepers would be what we run during the day. The scrubbers would be more later in the day after the population's down.
They did very extensive testing of all these different models of scrubbers and strippers before they settled on this. These are the ones that offer the best value. They're most efficient. They're to the point about putting that water down behind them, most effective in using them. You will know this from your experience in schools. Other people might not. It would not be unusual for custodians to be running sweepers in the hallway during the school day. That's just not an unusual thing. Less so are they running a stripping machine. They might on a vacant hallway, but
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Presti. Without further objection, we'll extend for 20 minutes. Next is Ms. Goodwin Caldwell.
Okay, on the thing about the robots, I don't want that to be a fear of our people out here when they see, how much are we going to spend on these? Is it 20 million? Huh? I don't want there to be a fear that these are going to replace our people. Replacing people. So can you tell me, once we get all of these robots, are jobs going to go away for people? I don't want that to be a fear.
These tasks will go away for people. And at some point, we will calculate what reduction we can make in our formula allocation for custodians. Right now, there's enough turnover in custodians to absorb them. No, ma'am, that's not what it means. It means that they may have a different job. It does not mean they'll be out of a job. These tasks won't need to be performed anymore by a person operating that machine. We will have custodial vacancies. It is our plan to redirect some of these positions to grounds where we are far behind in our work orders, and to add a crew to pressure wash on the outside of the building. So as I said early on, it may mean you have a different job or maybe in a different location, but people are not gonna lose their job.
But we will be, in essence, be decreasing the workforce in the custodial.
Well, hopefully, yes, it will decrease the workforce of the custodians to a degree. They'll be hired in other vacant custodial positions or moved to grounds positions.
I just don't want that to be a fear for people that once we get these robots in here, that, you know, it's taking their jobs. I just, because I know we futuristic and all of that, but I just don't want that to be a fear. I know they could probably do everything a little better, but you know, that's what I'm saying. So you ain't got to explain no more. I'm good.
Well,
I'm good.
let me give you two examples. That I think speak loudly than anything we can say about it. We cut $84 million thereabouts out of the general fund budget in 2010, 11. $84 million. We just reduced this year personnel by adjusting to the reduced enrollment we have by $15.5 million. Not one employee lost their job in either circumstance. Not one employee. They might have been in it working in a different location, but no one lost pay and no one lost their job.
But you don't have the robots. You don't have the robots. I mean, you know,
These
we're
robots
talking
would
about
not,
something different.
would come nowhere near that number of people.
But yeah, I just don't want people to think that we are replacing real humans with robots, and to have that fear that we are looking at, you know, this would be better for us, but we're replacing human capital with it.
At best, it might drop 0.5 to 0.75 of a person per location.
Okay, they'll come to you, Bert, when
and we'll find them a place to work.
If it happens, I'm saying, I'm just saying, go see Dr. Bert.
There is no shortage of work to be done.
Go see Dr. Bert Royster. But anyway, the next thing I wanted to ask you, he's back there. Whenever y'all are doing these projections for enrollment, most young families usually can't, a lot of people can't afford Greenville now, the housing market, but most of them are usually going to the multifamily. Do y'all look at where they're building all these multifamily housing complexes to see if our enrollment is going to go up in that?
Yeah, so on average, we actually receive a smaller yield from multifamily housing. However, we do track the price point and what the marketability of them and et cetera, because we can, in times, like you said, have a higher yield at some of the multifamily. But if you go to the downtown Greenville area, we see such a small yield of students from those apartments.
But we know the southern end of the county is what's growing the most, and it's a lot of multifamily going up down there. And I know that we're building the new Bryson, and we're increasing to K-8. But are y'all looking at that maybe being where most of our new students come from?
That is one of our largest growing areas, Fountain Inn.
So are we looking for more land for more schools down that way?
Yes.
Or should we start?
We're in the process, and in fact, in that general area, we are maybe a month from bringing you a recommended purchase, maybe two.
Because I know it's a lot of multifamily going up down there.
Not a lot hadn't been asked about that. There's a bump in here for site acquisition. What we're trying to do as best we can in looking at long range, not necessarily we need to build it in the next 2 years or 5 years, that we can go out and locate sites now in areas where we believe there will be growth or where eventually we know there'll be growth. Because there's obviously going to be no more land created. The longer we wait to purchase property, the greater the price, the greater the likelihood we cannot buy it in large tracts, which is always the less expensive way to buy it. So our realtor is actively out now looking in areas we have identified for him to bring us some sites to consider for recommendation to you all. And one of them is in that very area that you're talking about.
Okay. Thank you. That's all, Scott.
Thank you, Ms. Godwin. Thank you, Ms. Godwin-Caldwell. Next, Ms. Doolin.
Thank you. Let me find the right page. With the site acquisition line, is that line item, does that fall in the operating budget or in the capital improvements bonds budget?
It falls in the capital budget.
So, based on a question I asked at a previous meeting, it appears that over the past 10 years, about $100 million has been budgeted for site acquisitions, but only 16 million was spent.
It's a balance in site acquisition and property purchase, Robin. While she looks for that, that's been intentional. We're trying to build a fund there to ensure that we've got future building sites where they're needed to be, while we can get them from single owners, if at all possible, and before the prices, because they continue to escalate.
Yes, but 16, over 10 years, only spending 16% of what was budgeted would, I mean, if my math is correct, that would leave around $84 million.
That's why I want Ms. Stack to share with you the exact amount.
If there is money remaining, it doesn't seem like increasing that budget to 32 million is really.
Rob?
So I'm not sure where you got 100 million for, did you just add up the budget line in that
over the past 10 years?
And you just added?
That's the same,
Yeah.
That's not additional money, that's the same money every year.
Oh, it's not budgeted that much every year?
It's not spent every year.
If wherever you're reading your lines from, if there's a difference between the first line you read and the next line, or the next one and the next one, it's the difference is the amount added to it. So wherever you're, I'm not sure where you're reading from.
From the email that Nancy sent us last week.
So the very bottom line would be the total.
Okay, well, there's two, no, please.
It'll be easier to point to it.
Well, there's either 32 million or 19 million.
Turn that where I can actually see it.
So I assumed this was the amount budgeted every year.
It is, but it's not new money. All right, so when it went from 1.127 to 14.8, it was because we added 13.7 to it.
Okay.
All right, so then we added down here 7.895 and then 7.5.
So these are the real budget.
Those are the adds
Okay.
to it. And
So then we're spending about half of what we budget.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's better than only 15%.
I can see where reading it that way is confusing, but yes, now you're on the right track.
Well, you closed out my whole thing.
Well, I didn't touch that.
Okay, but so I don't have it in front of me now, but so it's the ask 32 million for site acquisition for this year?
The additional transfer from fund balance is in the amount of, Robin,
For site acquisition, the total is 32. Yeah.
Say that again.
32 million.
3.2 to add on.
she's looking at the total ask.
Yeah.
The 33.8 is the total amount requested from fund balance to go to the building fund.
Yes.
Site acquisition as a line
3.2.
item in it is how much, Robin?
3.2.
An additional 3.2 of the 33.8.
Okay, that makes
That makes
a lot
sense.
more sense, yes. Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay.
Okay, my next question is about the scrubbers. I'm a little bit confused why we're being asked to buy the scrubbers and then also go ahead and collect or plan to buy the replacements. Like, I feel like that's if you go to Target and buy a vacuum and then you're like, well, this is going to break one day, so I'll just go ahead and buy the next one now too.
Well, the reason for doing it that way is we can take it from fund balance and put it out there in the future and set aside in a designated account. So the year that you have to buy $800,000 worth of them, you don't have to find $800,000 in the general fund budget to buy it. We can do it the other way. We can buy them all up front and not set that money aside. But the other issue with buying that many at one time is they'll have to be replaced in a pretty tight window. But probably maybe a 3-year window, could be a 4. If you bought them over 10 years, obviously you could spread the replacement over 10, but we really don't. We want to realize the efficiency as quickly as possible, not over a 10-year period. So normally when we buy a large ticket item like that, if we know the estimated life and we can set that fund aside for it to be there, then that helps to offset any need to take money from the general fund at that point in time.
Okay, and the life expectancy does anyone know what the life expectancy is of a sweeper?
They're warranted for 8 years, but we are very hopeful and anticipate we'll get a few more years out of those.
Okay.
And I think we'd expect to get probably 10 to 12 years out of them.
Okay, thank you. Next is about the car lines. How soon can the car line redesign and repaving happen? And do you know what order the schools will go in? Because if I get stuck on Bethel Road anymore because of that car line.
So we'll be looking at likely it'll be next summer, not this coming, but next summer when these will happen. Depending on the campus, there may be some work that can start during the school year, but I'm hesitant to even say that, especially at our elementary schools. But the greater likelihood is the following summer.
If it affects like a curb cut, driveway, they got to get SCDOT approval. Then to put it out for design, put it out for bid. I assume we will likely bid that as a group or individually, where you bid you bid all the jobs or one of the jobs or whatever. It's the way we do it. Depending on the time of the year you put it out, there's a certain paving season. If you get outside the window of that paving season, you can't really pave. So we've got to hit the paving season timing and then ensure there are enough contractors to do the work. That's probably a pretty optimistic timeline.
Yes, sir.
We'll start on it as soon as we can.
But I know 2 or 3 contractors that will, especially with this, the amount of work when you lump it all together, they'll be all over trying to come after these projects.
Okay. I think my last question is about something from our budget from yesterday. That's it's a line item called increases to existing service and supply contract costs. That seems like it's about building services, maintenance, and grounds. I mean, that's listed in it. So I wondered why that was in our operating budget and not budgeted for the building.
The short answer to that is almost all the materials and supplies that they use for repairs, not extending the life of something, are repaired. It has to come out of the general fund. You can't use capital money for that. The chemicals they use, for example, building services, custodial services, you can't buy that out of capital. It's got to come out of the general fund, and that's a recurring, that cost increase, prices never go down. They do go up. That'll never go away. You can forward fund it out of fund balance, but then you're going to have a bigger hole to fill in 2 years or 3 years or whatever. You cannot fund it out of capital. The only thing you can fund out of capital is something that extends the life of the building. A roof, HVAC system, mass door and hardware replacement, things like that.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doolin. I don't know where we are on time, Ms. Fitzer. I think we're getting close again. Let's go ahead and extend for 20 minutes without further objection based on the additional questions. Mr. Venezuela.
Mine's going to last 2 minutes. Thank you. Colonel, 1 minute or less, answer. The circle that you're going to do, the loop for Wade Hampton,
yes.
Where's that going?
Are you familiar with Mighty Generals?
I am.
And the roundabout?
Yes.
Plan is to relocate the entrance drive to Mighty Generals, come up around the roundabout into the property and reconnect.
Okay.
Which will do two very important things for us. It obviously extends the car rider line. It also gets us away from that strange Y intersection with Waddell Road.
I love it. That's a minute. Drew, real quick, and this may have already been asked. I stepped out for a moment, but do you see the trend on students, families, young families, having one, or none children now, opposed to back in the day having 5, 4, and 3?
Well, the birth rate across the nation has decreased year over year for a while. I believe it's at its lowest point. We are the anomaly in Greenville County, and that's in partial due to the influx of new residents that we have. We're one of the few areas you would see across the country. And actually, that random fact here, South Carolina, for the first time in 5 years, had more total births than deaths this last year.
Wow.
But so that would insinuate, I would believe, that we're having more births. I wouldn't know other than anecdotally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wondering, just food for thought. Listen, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Levin, Wells. Next, we have Ms. Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. I really just have a couple of comments, not so much questions. I'm very happy about the J. Holly Bond Center. I was surprised about that. I didn't know that we were thinking of completely renovating the whole center. So that's the Career Center. That's fantastic. The old buildings are, that building is so old. It's built in the 50s, right? And it needs to be completely renovated. Or completely
To be clear, Ms. Miller,
the Bond Center.
we're going to demo the old part and build new.
Okay, yes. That's what I did mean to say that. But are you keeping part of it? I thought I saw.
We're keeping the shops,
Okay.
the large bay shops on the backside of Bonds where they have like automotive and machine tool. That was built in the 90s.
Right.
So we would not want to demo that. It's in
No.
very good condition.
And will you be redoing the whole parking lot, the whole site?
Yeah,
I know
well,
there's been some issues with parking there and kids there.
Well, for one, we have to figure out with whatever architectural firm we engage in that, how we can lay it out while we still operate the current Bonds Career Center. Whether we have to phase construction, which there, because that building's so large, that might be possible. So some of it will be constrained by having to operate while we build it, but that's a large piece of property. Mm-hmm. And we probably want the building is not oriented in the best way to where it's apparent where the front is, that sort of thing. We will work on that, but some of that will be dictated by having to run the center while we build there.
That's great, thank you. I also want to echo what Dr. Saylor said about the sound systems. The sound system in some of the football stadiums and whatnot. Greer High School, and I know I've mentioned this before, has a very loud sound system for their football stadium, but it's very gobbled. And I don't think it's a really old sound system, it just is defective somehow.
We send somebody there to check it. Okay. We have a contract with somebody that does sound systems.
That's, again, thank you for the Bonds Career Center. That's fantastic. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton. Lastly, Ms. Mosley.
Thank you so much, Mr. Klein. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a headache, so I'm going to try to be as diplomatic as possible. One thing you said at the beginning of this section is that there's a lot that goes on in this district that the general public doesn't understand what it takes to run the district, even at the most basic level, sweeping the floors. So I'm just going to ask this question. Do I understand that this is a $20 million investment over did I hear you say a 15-year period? Or somebody said 15 years, or did I not hear that correctly?
When does the the first round of replacement.
And I know it's not 20 million all at one time, but.
No, it's not. We're setting it aside, but it wouldn't be spent at one time.
Right.
The initial buy is like 8.
So 33, 34, and 35 is when we're going to replace what we're buying in 2026.
I think that's based on when the warranty runs out, but the belief is they should last 10 to 12 years, so it should push that out a little bit, because that first year would be 8 years from the purchase of all of them. Isn't that right?
Yes. Okay, so 12 years? Okay. And it's not a staffing issue, it's an efficiency issue.
It's an efficiency issue. Now, right now, we're doing pretty well with fill rate on staffing. A year or two ago, it would also have been a staffing issue. We don't have enough people. So we were having to put people on overtime. And in some cases, particularly smaller schools, there's a limit to the number of people, and there's a limit to the amount of overtime they can work from a physical standpoint. So that's always been cyclical. When the economy appears to be very healthy, we have challenges filling those positions. When the economy appears to be heading in the other direction, we don't have challenges filling them. So it should help that. But again, wherever we shift those workers to, and we believe we can eliminate some positions, but wherever we shift the workers to, that same will hold true in that workforce likely. If they go to grounds.
Right, and I understand Ms. Goodwin's Caldwell concern for our current employees, and I understand the perception is when you bring something in automated in any circumstance, the perception is someone's going to lose their job. But at the same time, in the modern world, whether you're a school district or an industry or a service company or whatever, it's nobody's responsibility to provide X number of maintenance jobs on any given year. It's no one's responsibility to provide X number of banking jobs on any given year. It's whatever meets the need, and most companies' leadership wants to run the company, if you look at the school district as a company, in the most efficient way.
Yes.
To stretch funds as far as they'll go. So am I understanding, just clarifying, that based on the research your team has done, and I'm going to have to trust them because I don't know a darn thing about these other than the Roomba that I owned, that the research, you feel confident in the research that you've done on this equipment, that it will save us money in the long run?
Yes. And
because
how long have y'all asked about this? Okay, so what you're seeing presented today is a result of 4 years of, we're not ready to do that. We don't have enough information on it. They did a lot of work and tried a lot of different manufacturers to get to something that they now feel like, and we feel like it will do what we believed it would do at the outset. But that was a 4-year process to get from, they saw these, said, this is something we think we can use, to we are confident that they will work efficiently and effectively based on the demos we've run. And now our almost school year, not a full calendar year, but almost school year on the job performance. But they had them out, they tested them as they were going through that process in our buildings. They didn't go to some demo somewhere, they had them bring them out to our facilities to test.
Dr. Royster, I'll also add, from the staffing standpoint, these robots, they only clean the hallways, so we still have to go into the classrooms with staff to make sure that we're wiping down desks and cleaning, because the robots can't go between the desks. It's just too much. So they're really only taking care of the hallways. And also from a cost-saving standpoint, even with the full staff, our staff are still putting in an awful lot of overtime right now. We're paying time and a half for those positions. So with this efficiency, hopefully we can cut down on some of the overtime as well and save some money there.
Thank you for that. And so my last point of clarification for the general public that doesn't fully understand when they see, because this is going to be somewhere out there, $20 million for robots, sweepers. This is non-recurring. This can't be, they don't understand why we can't take $20 million and pay teachers more or do something else. It has to be, this particular fund, this particular money has to be for one-time expenses.
Yeah, it's not, we'll have some revenue excessive expense every year, we always do, but it's varied greatly. In fact, I think Robin sent you all a chart of how much it's varied over the years. So there'll always be some ability to use this for non-recurring. But if you thought about $20 million, that's a huge amount of money.
I know.
It costs this year, $714,000 to move teachers' pay $100. So it would move it for a 20-year period. It might move their pay $100 for a 20-year period. You'd have to set it aside and draw it down, over a 20-year period. So it is essence. It's not, because after the 20 years is up, then that $100 is gone. But it is not a large amount of money when you break it out from a per teacher aspect.
Okay. Salaries are reoccurring.
Yeah, they're recurring, and the cost of that goes up. That's just based on what it cost this year. So it wouldn't even probably wouldn't last 20 years.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. I missed the long-term facility plan meeting, so I appreciate those answers. Mr. Klein, you're back on.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley, and we have one more question from Ms. Doolin.
Thank you. Dr. Royster, can you remind us how many square feet the district has in its campuses?
13.1 million.
13.1 million square feet of interior space.
Yes, that's space, that's heated and cooled space.
And if the hallways and cafeteria and gym comprise, let's just say half.
Would be half. Probably circulation, Scott's probably 8 to 12%. That sound right? Circulation space. I think it's more than 12%.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 50%, but it's
30-ish.
30 might be a little high. If you hit 20%, that's still 2.6 million square feet. If it had 20%, that's 2.6 million.
Okay, let's call it 2.6 million square feet. That need to be, if you tried to hire someone to clean 2.6 million square feet every day, could you do it for $1 to $1.5 million a year? No, you could not. And that's what the sweepers will do. Because there is no one in the world that can clean 2.6 million square feet every day for $1 million a year.
That's right. A custodian, a custodial FTE is roughly half of a teacher FTE, because you got benefits in there. So that would be 45, that would be $49,000. Yeah, $49,000.
Times 100.
Times however many you need. So 49,000 times on our formula. You can put our formula on it. It would tell you how many custodians you need for that many square feet.
Sure.
But to your point, it would simply reinforce the point you've already made.
But even if you hired an outside company to say, can you clean 2.6 million square feet a day, their bill would be much higher than $1 million a year.
Yes, I would well imagine it would. Because not only have they got to pay their employees, they have to make a profit too.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doolin. Do we have any other questions or discussion? Without any further questions, there's two recommended motions. The first motion recommended is to approve the March 2026 long-range facilities plan. Do we have a maker of the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the March 2026 long-range facilities plan and capital improvement plan as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Do we have a second? Second by Dr. Stiles. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. And the motion carries. The second motion is also recommended from the administration to approve the transfer. Do we have a maker of the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Ms. Sailors.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the transfer of $33,847,000. Excuse me, $33,847,000. 33 million, yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. We have a maker
I
of the
got to
motion.
finish it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got to tell you where it's going. From the unassigned general fund balance to the building fund balance for capital improvement program as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Do we have a second? Second, Dr. Stiles. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. And finally, I go back to Dr. Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. This concludes our committee of the whole meeting for today. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Mrs. Mosley, a second from Ms. Goodwin Caldwell.
Sorry.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our committee of the whole is adjourned at 12:24 p.m. Lunch is waiting. Thank you again for joining us today. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day.